How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.
is the end. There's a noise inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. This is the final
Who the fuck is Karlyn? She's just some sweet lady. She's like in a knitting. She does like a knitting stream. She's like a knitting YouTuber. She does knitting.
Can we grow up a little bit and
Alt
not
Girl
be
sent $200.
retarded?
Have you
Please.
seen the work of Karlyn Borysenko? Anti-commie cult leader and is obsessed with looking at what actual far-left communists are talking about and organizing today, infiltrating them. They infiltrated the universities, schools, media. She has the receipts to back it up. Primary source evidence. Infestation is dire and she calls Republicans idiots eating slop. Agree.
Thank you for the big super chat. Yeah, oh, I know Karlyn B. She's solid. She's funny. I
The
like
great
her.
noticer sent $200.
Literally.
So
Not
it's,
Ian.
it's not because
Yeah.
I haven't dangled my junk into the combat zone on purpose to get some camera footage, but that's the big part of what's the
Is that
problem.
what you call reporters?
Go
and live
under if
streaming?
you're going to do it.
Yeah,
go
seriously.
undercover. Otherwise, you're wearing a hunk of meat in a lion's den. Nick Shirley, I love you. Take care of yourself, man. Karlyn Borysenko went undercover. Do stuff like that. Like if you want to expose this thing, don't pariah,
But
please.
Ian, here's and I agree with you to an extent.
And I've learned a lot from Karlyn Borysenko, who goes in undercover with the left. And I've figured out from looking at her work, like when I first saw her stuff, I was like, oh, she knows what she's talking about. I need to like connect with her. And she actually, the first time I got assaulted in 2025, followed me and sent me messages. And she checked on me for months, just privately. It was so nice to have somebody like, are you okay? But I could tell she knew what she was talking about, and I subscribe to her. I look at all her stuff. I've learned so much, and I thought I knew a lot. I've learned so much.
What's up, guys? What's up? Who missed me yesterday? It wasn't my fault. It wasn't. I swear to God, I was so bored yesterday. You guys don't even know. You guys don't even know the struggle that I went through yesterday, not having access to the internet for hours upon hours upon hours. You guys don't even know. Okay, so here's what happened. Yesterday, Victor had the day off yesterday, and so Victor and I went on a little date where we went out to lunch and we went and walked around a bit and stuff like that. And we're basically leaving the house. We're leaving the house around, I don't know, like 1 p.m. or something, 1 p.m. As we are leaving the house, so like basically to get anywhere from where I live, you have to drive over a bridge, like a little bridge that like goes over the interstate, right? So where we live near the interstate, but like not like right off the interstate or anything. So like one of the roads we live near, there's basically a bridge that goes over the interstate. So we were driving over that bridge. All of a sudden, smoke starts billowing up from the interstate. Okay. And this is like a couple blocks away from where I live. And so we're like, oh, fuck, what just happened on the interstate? We're trying to figure it out. But like all we can see is like smoke is billowing up from the interstate. And there's also construction going on around there. And we're like, okay, well, probably a good time to leave the house then. Probably this was a W decision on our part. And so we leave the house, we go have lunch, we go like pit around a little bit. We come back and we're supposed to be back by 4:30. So I was like half an hour early for the stream yesterday. And we notice on the way back that apparently all of the power lines near the interstate have fallen down. And they are working frantically to fix them. And we got some notion that this might be happening because we did get a text message from Comcast saying your internet will be restored by 4:20. And I was like, this is great. It's 4:30. The internet was supposed to be back by 4:20. So in theory, by the time I arrive home, the internet will be back and I will be able to do my stream. Well, dare to dream. The internet was indeed not back. And because whatever fucking immigrant drove into multiple power lines off of the interstate yesterday, 2 blocks away from where I fucking live, and you know it was a fucking immigrant. You know it was a fucking, you know it was a brown immigrant that doesn't speak English. You fucking know it was, okay? Everyone knows this is true. It might be racist to say it. Everyone fucking knows this is true. So I didn't get my internet back until like 10:30 last night. And I was so bored. I was so fucking bored. You guys don't even know. You don't even know the struggle I went through yesterday, not having access to the internet. It was horrible. I had to entertain myself by cleaning and fucking organizing and trying on all these old clothes that I have because I'm still working through my clothes to figure out what fits me and what doesn't anymore. And P.S., clothes that fit me 2 months ago now are like significantly no longer fit me, which is weird, but like whatever. I have to clean this shit out. I have to make room in the closet for the clothes that actually fucking fit. So I spent hours yesterday cleaning and trying on old clothes. And it was actually, I mean, it was like fascinating in some, it's like you guys should see. You guys should see like my old clothes compared to the clothes. It is actually mind-blowing how these clothes look on me now. It is mind-blowing. Oh, I did catch wind of Marco Rubio's report on how Cuba is financing all of the far left in America. Yeah, I caught wind of that. You know why I didn't bother reading that? Because I don't want to. Because I don't read fiction. I don't spend my time reading fiction. I used to read fiction. I no longer read fiction. Why would I read fiction when I have a massive archive of socialist propaganda that I could be reading that's totally real? Why would I spend my time reading the fictional fucking report of Marco Rubio, who is lying to the American people, saying, he wrote 100 fucking page report? I'm definitely not reading that shit. You want to know why? Because only fucking retards believe that Cuba is funding the far left in America. Only the massively retarded believe that Cuba, fucking Cuba, of all places, Cuba doesn't have gas, Cuba doesn't have food, Cuba doesn't have electricity, but they're funding the far left in America. Okay, Marco. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, okay, bro. Yup. Totes. Hey, Gorstein over on Rumble gifting the first channel membership of the day. We're going to do a channel membership goal, but I have to set that up still. So thank you for the gifted channel membership, getting us started on our way to our channel membership goal, which will be 100, especially since we missed yesterday. So I really hope we can hit the goal today because, as you guys know, My work is completely funded by you. I do not take political money. I do not work with any political groups. I will never shill a political narrative. My only job is to show up and to show you guys the receipts and to tell you the truth and to give you direct access to the information. I do not gatekeep information on this channel. I show you where you can find it. So if you don't believe me, you can just follow the information, go watch it or read it in your own time, and you can come to your own conclusions about that. Yo, John, thank you so much for the 5 gifted channel memberships, my friend. W's to you, good sir. I really, really appreciate it. Yeah, everyone mount the like button for me. We're already up to 6 of our 100 goal for the day. I'll just add the goal on there and we'll pretty that up later. So I was gone yesterday and I wasn't really paying attention. And you know what? I kind of feel like, does anyone else feel like that incident in front of the immigration court in New York City where some sort of like immigrant, like some sort of like anti-ICE activist, like an immigrant anti-ICE activist, basically set a fire outside of the immigration court in New York City? Does anyone kind of feel like that's a false flag? Like, isn't that just a little bit too convenient right now? A Muslim immigrant anti-ICE activist acting on his own, not with the collective, acting on his own, just randomly sets a fire out in front of the immigration court. And by the way, it didn't do really any damage to something. He threw some lighter fluid on the sidewalk and then set a fire to it. And although we should never be doing that shit, and I disavow all of it completely, would it, if they had actually wanted to cause damage, wouldn't they have done something else? Like, I'm just saying, I think the fact that it was a Muslim, because of course the right is obsessed with Muslims, Muslim anti-ICE activist that doesn't really look like how I would expect the far left to look, engaging in an act of individual terrorism, which of course we know from listening to socialists and communists, they disavow individual terrorism. It's not the terrorism part, it's the individual part. So why is this so-called leftist anti-ICE activist engaging in an act of individual terrorism, which is universally denounced by revolutionary groups on the far left? And what he set fire to were concrete steps with nothing around it. I don't know, man. It seems a little weird to me. What groups were involved? Where were the other socialists? Where were the comrades? Why weren't they making demands about anything? Like, where, maybe it was real. Maybe it was real. But I think for right now, I am not convinced. And again, like, there's a lot of factors that lead me to not being convinced. The fact that that guy is a Muslim, when we know that the right is, like, the minute that I heard that, I actually thought that that thing was real until the minute that I heard that guy was a Muslim. And I was like, oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, it was important enough for him to act alone, which goes against the left beliefs because the left does not believe in individual terrorism. They do not believe in acting alone. That is an act of individualism, which is something that upholds capitalism. The left denounces individualism. They believe in collectivism. What sparked it? What was the goal? What was the demand? Where's the fucking manifesto? The right is far more obsessed with Muslims than the left is, guys. The right is far more obsessed with Islam than the left is. Like, it doesn't make sense on like several different levels. So I'm going with, it's a big fucking nothing burger, false flag that, basically they're trying to spark, like, you know, like the right is fucking around, essentially. The right is fucking around. And until I see some sort of broader group take credit for that, or I see some sort of information that links that guy to any real far left organization, I'm going to kind of be like, okay, with the amount that I see the White House lying about the far left, because it is astonishingly bad. It is the fact that the White House is constantly just perpetrating a massive fucking fraud that anyone who listens to the far left, anyone who studies the far left, we know what's going on here. that speech that Trump gave, I'm sorry, I don't believe a fucking word of it. I do not believe a fucking word of it. I don't believe China's funding all this shit. I don't believe that that Muslims are the ones for I don't believe this. I simply don't believe it. It does not align with what we see on the ground. And guys, if it did align with the evidence, there would be no one shouting it louder than me. I would be psyched if what they were saying aligned with the evidence, because then I would be out there being like, I told you so. Can you think of any reality in which I wouldn't take the I told you so if the evidence aligned with what the White House is saying? Of course I would do that. I would be out there screaming. I would be making videos saying, I told you so, and here's when I presented the evidence months, weeks, or years before the White House. No one would ever hear the end of it ever. Have you met me? I'm a fucking Aries. Thank you, Kevin Michael, for being a member of the channel for 7 months. Appreciate it, bro. Appreciate it. So I don't believe a word coming out of the White House's mouth. I don't believe a word coming out of Marco Rubio's mouth. Fuck them. They're lying. And I'm just going to continue to watch the primary sources. And if you guys want to watch the primary sources with me, you are more than welcome to do that. And that way, you can see what's really going on and you can decide for yourself what it means. Today, we are going to be watching Today, we are going to be watching our old friends, the Denver Communists. The Denver Communists like me so much that they have blocked me on Instagram. And, I normally would be mad about the Denver Communists blocking me on Instagram, except for the fact that I have a secret Instagram account that they don't know about, in which I can still access their information, Denver Communists. Ha ha, fuck you. Too bad, so sad. Naruto, I'm sorry. I forgot your super chats. I'm so sorry, my friend. In 2026, it's a radical position to say, go see the movie for yourself and then form your own opinions about it. Don't let anti-woke grifters do your thinking for you. On this channel, we do our, yo, can we talk about the Odyssey for a moment? Because the Odyssey fucking kicked ass. And yeah, there were some woke parts. There were. But overall, the Odyssey was fucking awesome. Now, let me ask you guys this. I have given the conservative right countless videos of communists calling to overthrow the government for years, not just recently with the DSA stuff. For years, I've been giving these videos. I have given the conservative right countless videos of communists talking for the abolition of parental rights because they believe parental rights are a form of private property ownership. I have given the right countless videos about communists saying that in order to overcome biological kinship, the way that we are going to reproduce in the future socialist utopia is by cloning children in bio bags and birthing children outside of the womb. I have given the right countless videos of the left talking about getting rid of individual kitchens because in the future communist utopia, you aren't going to need to cook food in your kitchen. You're going to be going to the community canteen and stuff like that. I have given the right I've given the right clips explaining exactly how the DSA is winning. And by the way, I did that a year ago before the DSA was winning as much as they're winning now. Let me ask you guys this. Do you think, one in the chat, if you think the right is outraged over any of the clips that I give them about the far left? 2 in the chat if you think the right is more outraged that I liked the Odyssey. 1 in the chat if you think the conservative right is outraged over any of the clips that I have spent years giving them showing what the far left is doing. 2 in the chat if you think they are more outraged over the fact that I liked the Odyssey. And apparently me liking the Odyssey is proof that I'm a leftist and I'm also a communist and I'm a socialist and they're going to spread all sorts of lies around me around the internet because I liked a movie that most of them haven't even fucking seen. Sometimes people say, Karlyn, why are you so hard on MAGA boomers? Why are you so hard on conservatives? Why are you literally wishing death upon MAGA boomers? And by the way, I'm not wishing death upon MAGA boomers. I am just stating the fact that they are boomers and they are going to die sooner rather than later. And, well, I want them to live a life in which they feel happy with and have a peaceful death naturally surrounded by their family. I am looking forward to the day when the MAGA boomers die off. You want to know why? Because those fucking retards have been trying to destroy me and my work for literally 5 fucking years. I have received more death threats from MAGA boomers than I received from the right. I have been threatened by MAGA boomers that they're going to come and out me when I'm undercover at leftist events so that the left beats me up. That's happened more from the right than it has from the left. Every single time I've been defamed and smeared on the internet, it has come from the right, it has not come from the left. And it's all because I refuse to tell them what they want to hear. And MAGA boomers, when they get their feelings hurt and someone says something they don't want to hear, you know what the definition of communist is to a fucking MAGA boomer? Someone that hurts their fragile fucking feelings. That is what the definition of a communist is. Oh, bro, the House GOP account, I can't even. Every time we see Republicans post about the left, it's like a stab in the fucking heart, man. It's like a stab in the heart. It's like being spit at in the face. And we are reminded how little they know about the enemy they claim to be fighting. And then they say to me, well, we're fighting the left. We're both fighting the left. We're on the same team. And I'm like, no. 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 No, you're not. No, you're not. You are spending more time fighting with me and trying to destroy my work and smearing me all over the fucking internet and sending me death threats. We had someone in the chat just last week threatening to find me in person to beat the shit out of me, naming the town that I fucking live in. That's not from the left, guys. That's from the right. That's from the right. And so, MAGA boomers, until you retards start hinging into fucking reality and start spending more time fighting the actual communists and socialists than you are fighting me over saying I liked a movie that you didn't like, you can literally go fuck yourself. This is a place for serious people. This is not a place for MAGA fucking retardation. We don't want you here. And no. We are not on the same team. We are not on the same team at all. We are not on the, when you assholes are sending me literal death threats, we are not on the same team in any fucking way. Naruto, thank you so much for the super chat. Remember in 2023 when people were calling Barbie woke DEI garbage? Another great movie, by the way. When the movie literally ends by saying the patriarchy is a made up concept. Yeah. Guys, listen. If you want to go see the Odyssey, go see the Odyssey. If you don't want to go see the Odyssey, don't go see the Odyssey. But quite frankly, if you are not going to actually sit your ass down and watch the fucking movie, I don't care what your opinion is on it. I do not give a fuck. I don't care. Bro, I bet you don't even know what the left believes. Excuse me, I am anti-woke and I don't know why we're talking about movies. I would bet all the money in my bank account you don't even know what the left fucking believes. Okay. Well, guess what? You want to voice your opinion over something that you're completely ignorant on? Bro, I don't give a flying fuck about your free speech. You have wandered into a fascist YouTube channel. I will silence your ass if I don't want to listen to you in my chat. I'm putting you in a 5-minute timeout. If you come back from that 5-minute timeout and you continue to annoy me, I will deport your ass from the channel. Because we're not fucking pussy classical liberals like conservatives and magatards. I am a fucking fascist. If I don't want you here, I will fucking silence you. If I don't want you here for any fucking reason. If you annoy me, if you say something stupid, if you cause disruption in my chat, if you act like an abject fucking retard, we will deport your asses. We don't want you here. This is a high IQ channel, not a low IQ channel. Anyway, with the fascist disclaimer out of the way, today we're going to be watching the Denver Communists. There's a couple of videos from the Denver Communists that have come up recently, and I want to watch them both. I want to watch this one, The Capitalist State and Socialist Strategy. This is from 2 weeks ago. I want to watch this one, Marxists Must Be Anti-Racist, a suggestion from Naruto from last week, I think. And so we're going to watch both these videos. Now, one in the chat, if you have watched the Denver Communists with me before. 2 in the chat, if this is your first time watching the Denver Communists. Let me see about the audience I have here today. 1 in the chat, if you have watched the Denver Communists with me before. 2 in the chat, if this is your first time and we are popping your cherry. over here? Let me know. Let me know. Let me know. Looks like a lot of newbies. No, excuse me, a lot of veterans. Only a couple noobs. Only a couple noobs. Okay. The Denver Communists are one of our favorite communist groups because they are real radical revolutionary communists. They want to violently overthrow the government. They do not believe in elections. They are highly organized. They are not only doing activism in Denver, they also are organized through something called the Firebrand Collective, which is a national organization of many radical revolutionary communist groups, including the Seattle Revolutionary Socialist, Boston Revolutionary Socialist. There are a couple other ones too, and they're trying to build that out and bring more people together. They also work with this revolutionary group called Socialist Horizon, which, well, maybe not so much anymore, though, because I think we might have caused enough infighting between those groups that they don't work together anymore, because I secretly recorded a conference they held last year, and they didn't like that shit. Anyway, the reason that we like the Denver Communists is that they give us so much content about what they believe, because the Denver Communists and the Firebrand Collective hold regular meetings. And by the way, if we wanted to infiltrate all their meetings, we could. I have multiple people that are like undercover with them, so we all could infiltrate their meetings. We don't, because there's plenty of stuff to watch, and eventually what's going to happen is the Denver Communists are going to upload their meetings to their YouTube page. And so the Denver Communists provide us with a wealth of ongoing material about what they believe on almost every possible topic. If you are new to studying the far left and you're like, Karlyn, where can I go to watch content on my own? Might I recommend the Denver Communist YouTube channel? The reason I say this is they have a massive archive of content that tells you what they believe about almost every single topic. Their videos tend to be relatively short, somewhere between 10 minutes and like 40 or 50 minutes is a long for them. Most of their videos are around 20 minutes long, because what they're doing is they're recording the meetings that they're having amongst themselves. They're editing out all the Q&A bits because they don't like recording that stuff. And then they're uploading the meat of the content to YouTube. So these are communists talking to other communists about what they believe, basically kind of like in real time, covering current events. They also cover, bigger picture issues and stuff like that. And so, like, when you first start studying socialism, it is very common that you might start watching a lot of it. This has happened to so many people on my channel, where once you start watching socialism, you just want more and more and more and more and more. It's like it becomes an addiction very, very quickly. And then I spoil all of their content for you, because once you get into watching the real shit, once you get into watching real socialism, all of their content will be ruined for you forever. Let me know if that's true. Guys, one in the chat if you've had the experience of, like, once you started watching socialism, it ruined all of their content for you forever. 2 in the chat if that hasn't happened yet. It's very common on the channel. 1 in the chat if watching socialism ruins all other content for you. 2 in the chat if you haven't had that happen yet. You can see what people are saying in the chat. And the reason is that you might spend a lot of time listening to, like, boring parts of communism and socialism, but once they say the quiet part out loud, it's like, holy fucking shit. It's like you're constantly watching, like, horror movies that are like a slow burn, and all of a sudden they get to the big payoff, and you're like, oh, that was definitely worth an hour and a half of my time. Oh, yes, thank you, socialist. This happens all the time. And the Denver Communists say the quiet part out loud all the time. Maybe not every single time, but the Denver Communists don't give a fuck. They are telling you explicitly what they believe. This is not the Revolutionary Communists of America. Completely different groups. Why don't they have ads on their video? They may just not be monetized. It might be that simple. It might just be that simple. They may not be monetized. I have no idea. Anyway, so if you're new to this and you're starting to get the socialism bug and you're like, I just want to watch more of this stuff, the Denver Communists have hundreds of videos, and we've watched a lot of them. And I do try to keep up with their content because it is relatively plain spoken. They do say the quiet part out loud quite a bit, and it's a great way to learn what the left believes. My husband gets mad that our YouTube is full of socialism and communist videos instead of music. Well, tell him to set up his own account. My husband has his own YouTube account that is full of police videos and car chases and whatever the fuck else my husband is watching, like chess videos. I don't know. Whatever he's watching on any given time. He has it, like, people are allowed to have separate YouTubes. I'm just saying. He can get his own fucking account. Okay. let's dig into it, guys. As I said, we are doing a class day today, so I do have a channel membership goal of 100 channel memberships. If you appreciate the work I'm doing, please fund it. I cannot continue to do this if you guys don't fund it. And let's just say I would like to get halfway through our goal. By the time we are done, the capitalist state and socialist strategy, and if we do get to the halfway point of our goal by then, I will watch the second video. If we don't, then I will not watch the second video and I'll go do something else. Okay? That's going to be the deal, okay? We're setting a goal, but we are also setting an incentive. So we have 44 more gifted channel memberships to get to the halfway point, and I think that's a perfectly attainable goal, given that this is about a 20-minute video. So we'll see. If you guys want to keep going past the first video, make sure you're funding the content. If you don't like what I'm doing, you don't want to fund the content, then we don't have to do that. Yo, we got I am in there with gifted channel membership. W's to you, my dear. If everyone just sent in one gifted channel membership, we would already blow the entire goal out of the water, okay? So I do want to keep this content free for everyone. We also do need to fund the content, so it is a balance. It is a balance. We need 43 more memberships, and I hope that they will come in during this video if I teach you anything new, if I make you look at things different, if I answer your questions when I really don't have to. I keep this free for everyone for a reason, but I do ask the people who can afford to gift out channel memberships to the community. W's, Nick. Thank you so much for the gifted channel membership. Look, it's easy like that. Easy like that. If 42 more people did that, we'd already be at the halfway point, and that would be cool. We got Mitchell in with 1. W's to you, my friend. Thank you so much. Look at that. Look how easy this is, guys. Look how easy it is. Someone gets a channel membership. We just got Donnie Girl in there with 5 channel memberships. Look how easy this is. People get channel memberships, the content gets funded, and I get to keep doing this stuff with you guys. W's, Donnie Girl, really appreciate all the support you give. You rock. You rock. We got Earl's daughter in with 5 gifted channel memberships. See, this is how it works, guys. W's to you, Earl's daughter. So appreciate it. Yeah, I know you're relatively new to the community. You're going to love the Denver Communists, though. I promise you. I promise you. W's to you, my dear. Thank you so much for funding the work I do. Look at that. Almost up to 20. No, we are up to 20. We are up to 20 because memory circles in. W's to you, my dear. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Look at that. 20. Already 20% of the way to our overall goal. Not too shabby. All right, guys. We are going to dig into this first video. We got 30 more gifted channel memberships to get by the end so we can watch the second one. Let's get this party started.
Rising interest in socialism has revived the debate on the capitalist state and socialist strategy. Reformist socialism says...
This again is why we love the Denver Communists, because the Denver Communists just say everything out loud. They say everything out loud. There are 2 primary groups on the far left. Now, first off, when I'm talking about the far left, and you can go and find this information at decodetheleft.com/map. Bing. There we are. Let me put this in the chat for people who are new. We always want to know what group we are watching on the far left. I have to update this chart, but let me walk you through it. There are 5 basic groups that exist on the left in general. The first 3, Democrat, liberal, and progressive, are not on the far left. Kristen, thank you, my dear. So appreciate all the support you've given to the community. W's to you. Thank you so much for the 5 gifted channel memberships. Already halfway to our 50% goal. So today we are not watching Democrats, liberals, or progressives. They're not on the far left. These groups want to uphold capitalism. When we come into the far left, tiers 4 and 5, I'm going to be changing. I need to update this chart. I'm going to be changing tier 4 to say reformist socialist. Right now it says democratic socialist. That was not the most precise name, but it's what I picked when I originally made this over a year ago. Okay. So we're going to be changing this to reformist socialist, and tier 5 is revolutionary socialist. So there are 2 basic groups on what I call the far left. In order to be a member of the far left, you have to want to overthrow capitalism. It is really that simple. Democrats, liberals, and progressives do not want to overthrow capitalism. Democrats are basically corporatists. They uphold corporate interests. Liberals are more just about the world being fair and nice for everyone. Progressives walk up to the line of wanting to overthrow capitalism. They are the easiest to radicalize to the far left, but they do not fundamentally want to overthrow capitalism yet. Once they reach that point, then they do become a member of the far left, which is tiers 4 and 5. Okay, so when we're talking about the far left, oh, see, we already have to deport someone from the chat. How is it that I'm able to intuitively identify the retards on site? I'm so good at identifying when people are far too stupid to be in my chat. What did I tell this retard? That if he said anything more retarded, I was going to deport him. Now he's coming back and saying, they're all the same. There's no difference. It's all about white people. Bro, I'm very sorry. Far too stupid to be in my chat. Far too stupid. You failed the IQ test. Permanently banned from the channel. Deported, motherfucker. Get the fuck out. Just had a timeout. Got a warning. Came back and acted like even more of a massive retard than when I put him in the timeout. It's like I have a sixth sense about identifying which newbies are going to be the most retarded in my fucking chat. So when we're watching the far left, we're either watching reformist socialists who are democratic socialists. They want to win elections and make reforms over time that are going to slowly overthrow the capitalist system. Or we are watching revolutionary socialists. Revolutionary socialists do not believe in elections. They do not believe elections are going to achieve their revolutionary cause. And so those are the two primary groups we're talking about on the left. Reformist socialists, which are tier 4. I have to update the chart and rename that. And tier 5, revolutionary socialists. So now let's go back to the Denver Communist presentation. It's almost like the Denver Communists have been watching me and paying attention to me, because the Denver Communists are starting to parrot a lot of my language, which is suspicious. Wouldn't that be funny if they're watching me and taking notes? Julie Black, thank you so much for the 10 gifted channel memberships, my dear. W's to you. Big support. Big support. Oh, my husband just came home and walked upstairs in his underwear. What a nice surprise for me. Victor liked that. Yep. Victor laughed at that. Yep. Anyway, so the very first thing that we see here are the Denver Communists talking about reformist socialism and revolutionary socialism. Reformist socialism, the working class and oppressed can use the existing state, that means the electoral system, the capitalist state, capitalist politics, to abolish capitalism and build a socialist society, whereas revolutionary socialism means we cannot permeate and alter the fundamentally undemocratic existing capitalist state to meet our goals. When they say the capitalist state, what they mean is our current system of government and our current system of elections. One in the chat if you understand this, that when they say the capitalist state, what they mean is the current system of government, the current constitution, the current system of elections. One in the chat if you understand that, 2 in the chat if that's new and confusing. It's okay to say if it's new and confusing, by the way. I'm just trying to get a sense of who's in the chat today. All right? So when they are saying the existing state, they are talking about our existing electoral system, the existing government, the existing constitution. They believe that all of these elements are grounded in capitalism, the government, the constitution, and the electoral system, like the electoral college, but the entire system as well, needs to be overthrown and abolished in order to abolish capitalism. So in these definitions, they are giving you exactly the same definitions that I am giving you in that Decode the Left chart. Reformist socialism is about working within the existing government, the existing system of elections, in order to abolish capitalism and bring about a socialist society, whereas revolutionary socialism does not believe they can work within the existing government or the existing electoral system in order to overthrow capitalism. That you cannot work with the master's tool to destroy the master's house sort of thing. So that's what we're talking about, guys. Well done, Denver Communists. Probably taking notes from me. You guys are welcome. You pretend not to watch me, but you do. It's okay. Common story. Denver Communists hate watching me and then stealing my work to use it for their audience. That's cool, bro. It's okay that I know your ideology better than most of you do. It's fine. You got it? You got it? They both want, essentially, just remember, the left's goal is to always overthrow capitalism. The only difference between reformist socialism and revolutionary socialism is they have different ideas about how to overthrow capitalism. For Democrats, liberals, and progressives, they do not want to overthrow capitalism. Reformist socialists want to overthrow it. Revolutionary socialists want to overthrow it. They just have different ideas. Reformist socialists like the DSA believe they can work within the electoral system to get elected to office and make small changes over time to eventually overthrow capitalism. Revolutionary socialists don't believe they can work through elections. They don't vote. They don't engage in electoral politics with any intent of winning. They think they need to violently overthrow the system. And that's really the only difference between the two. They both want to overthrow capitalism. They both want a socialist society. One believes in elections and one doesn't. And that's really all you need to know. That's all you need to know. Yeah, it's okay if they steal from me. It's all good. Let's see how Jason describes this.
The working class and oppressed can use the existing state to abolish capitalism and build a socialist society.
No. That's not correct. That's not correct at all. So, here is what you are missing. When the left says democracy, they mean socialism. Explicitly. They do not mean our current system. They don't believe our current system is a democracy. Their definition of democracy is socialism. So that is what you're missing there.
Reformist socialism says the working class and oppressed can use the existing state to abolish capitalism and build a socialist society. Revolutionary socialism says we cannot permeate or alter the fundamentally undemocratic existing capitalist state to meet our goals.
See, they don't believe the existing capitalist state is democratic. They believe the existing system that we have is fundamentally undemocratic, and they want to overthrow our current system in order to achieve their socialist system, which they believe will be democratic.
These strategies are based on different theories of the capitalist state.
Well, you got to learn how to say it better then. You didn't say that.
With regard to reformist socialism, the basic idea is that socialists elected to office make reforms to democratize the state, strengthen union rights, expand social welfare, and nationalize key industries.
God damn, that sounds a lot like what I just said. God damn, it's like the Denver communists are watching me. They just said that reformist socialism believes in getting elected to office to make small changes over time to eventually overthrow the capitalist system. Duh, Denver communists. Duh.
These are based on different theories of the capitalist state. With regard to reformist socialism, the basic idea is that socialists elected to office make reforms to democratize the state, strengthen union rights, expand social welfare, and nationalize key industries. These reforms will initiate a gradual transition to socialism. For liberals or social democrats, these reforms would make socialism unnecessary by balancing the interests of labor and capital and ushering in a kinder, gentler capitalism. Reformists prioritize electoral politics to the point of fetish.
Look at how disdainful the Denver communists are, and Jason in particular. Jason is one of the people we love from the Denver communists because Jason is the one that gave us the quote, "We don't object to terrorism, it's the individual part of it." So I remember I told you guys that we have them on video denouncing individual terrorism. It's Jason explicitly that we have on video saying, listen, we don't support individual terrorism. It's not the terrorism part, it's the individual part. So that's why we love Jason. I love how disdainful he is of the DSA and electoral politics. He's like, those fucking reformers fetishize elections. Like, it's so condescending and arrogant. It's amazing. SoulQuest, yeah, I was right again. Thank you, SoulQuest. Appreciate it.
They are captives of what Engels called a superstitious reverence for the state and everything connected with it. However, the imperative for any bourgeois government is to maintain capitalist profitability which cannot be reconciled with the interests of the working class. This gravely limits what it can do, no matter the politics of the elected officials involved. Capital's ability to withhold investment and resist policies that affect its bottom line is usually sufficient to guarantee the failure of reformist socialism.
Yo! So here he has explained why they don't like reformist socialism, but first we're going to honor Soul Quest. 10 gifted channel memberships, bro. W's to you, my friend, getting us within 5 channel memberships of our halfway point. How awesome. How awesome. Actually, I think we might be 4 within it because I think I'm off by 1 because I think we got 1 from Rumble. So we're actually at 46 out of our goal. Awesome. So what he's saying here, guys, what he's saying is that reformist socialism cannot work because capitalism will always make sure that reformist socialism never truly achieves the goal. Also, when you work within the capitalist system, you are going to get sucked into that system. So he's saying that even if you DSA types get elected to office, that means that you're just going to get sucked into capitalism. Even though the DSA right now is trying to push AOC to run for president, people like Jason and the Denver Communists do not like AOC at all. They do not like Bernie Sanders. They do not like Hassan Piker. They believe that all of these people are traitors to their pure revolutionary cause, okay? And so they're saying if you work within the capitalist system, you are always going to be limited by that capitalist system. The capitalist system will always oppress you. The capitalist system will always prevent real change. I will count that as channel membership, Ben Shaw. Thank you so much. We are to our halfway point. Really appreciate it, bro. Really, really appreciate it. Isn't that awesome? You guys are already getting a double video today. Look at that. Hopefully we can get up to our 100 channel membership goal. That would be awesome. Let's listen to him say that again. If you, and again, basically, so revolutionary socialists bitch and complain about democratic socialists, because they essentially believe that democratic socialists are one of their main enemies towards achieving their revolution, okay? So they are actually like more spiteful towards democratic socialists trying to work within the capitalist system than they are towards conservatives. They don't like conservatives, they don't like Trump, all that stuff, but like you want to hear real kind of like resentment, it's the revolutionary socialists resenting the democratic socialists for not being leftist enough. So listen again.
Superstitious reverence for the state and everything connected with it. However, the imperative for any bourgeois government is to maintain capitalist profitability, which cannot be reconciled with the interests of the working class. This gravely limits what it can do, no matter the politics of the elected officials involved. Capital's ability to withhold investment and resist policies that affect its bottom line is usually sufficient to guarantee the failure of reformist socialism. Reformism has a social basis, people whose interest it represents, in trade union bureaucrats, elected officials, and petty bourgeois social movement leaders. These groups inevitably restrain struggle and adopt moderate strategies because their material position depends on preserving class compromise, preserving the boss-worker relationship, and preserving the existing state.
Yeah, so what he's saying there is if you are engaging in reformist socialism, you're going to be perpetually making compromises with the capitalist system because you're working within their rules. You're working within the capitalist system. So you're going to make compromise after compromise after compromise that's going to continue to perpetuate capitalism. And this is why revolutionary socialists do not believe that they can ultimately win via elections, because they believe that winning via elections is basically just like making compromise after compromise after compromise with capitalism. Hope that makes sense. Thank you so much for the $20 super chat. Appreciate it. Surely the success of the DSA has not gone unnoticed. Well, yeah, but they don't believe, I mean, obviously they know the DSA has been successful, but that doesn't mean they support it. They don't believe that what the DSA is doing is going to lead to a post-capitalist world, as you're literally listening to them say it right now. I wonder if there's a revolutionary socialist contingent in the DSA in hopes of subverting it and steering it into full-blown communism. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. In fact, There are multiple caucuses within the Democratic Socialists of America that are trying to pull the DSA further left. And I've actually met with some of them in person. I met with them at the New York Anarchist Book Fair. I met with them at the Socialism Conference when I was there. I've seen, like, they pop up over and over and over again. So yes, there are 100% revolutionary socialists within the DSA that are actively trying to pull the DSA further left. As of right now, they're not winning. The reason they're not winning is because the DSA is having so much success with elections right now that it's like energizing the members and stuff like that. But they are there. They are trying to pull them further left. So yes, yeah, that is a really good observation on your part. Yes, that is absolutely happening. But still, they are always going to be in fundamental conflict with this election strategy. And it's kind of like they're biding their time, essentially. They're biding their time. So good super chat, bro. Good super chat.
In Reform or Revolution, Rosa Luxemburg went so far as to say, the question of reform or revolution is another form of the question of the petty bourgeois or proletarian character of the labor movement. Reformism is our primary political competitor, and it shares many of our goals, at least in words.
What did I tell you? The reason I know what Jason is going to say, by the way, is I've heard him say it before, so I know exactly what Jason's position is. I've been watching Jason for fucking years. They literally said this at the Revolutionary Socialism Conference that I recorded last year. Reformism is our primary political competitor. This is revolutionary socialists telling you they don't believe their primary political competitor is the Democratic Party. They don't believe the primary political competitor is the Republican Party or MAGA or Trump or even the evil dissident right-wingers, the real Nazis. They don't believe that those people are their primary political competitor. They believe the DSA and reformism is their primary political competitor. Why? You have retards on my channel that come in all the time and say, they're all the same, there's no difference. Well, the revolutionary socialists beg to differ because they consider the reformist socialists to be their primary political competitor. The reason is when people start to radicalize to the far left, when they start to say, capitalism is not a system that can be saved, we need to overthrow the capitalist state, they are given two options at that point. If you come to the conclusion that overthrowing capitalism is the only course forward, you have two options. You have reformist socialism or revolutionary socialism. What revolutionary socialists believe is that they cannot get their revolution, they cannot overthrow capitalism until reformism does not exist anymore, because reformism is the place that's taking the people that are radicalizing to the far left. People who are sick of the Democratic Party, they're not going to the right, guys. I know this is a myth that conservatives like to perpetuate, saying all these people are leaving the Democrats. They're not going to the right. They're going to the left. And right now, the DSA has a massive amount of momentum. They have over 120,000 dues-paying members. And the DSA, being so successful, is taking people away from revolutionary socialism because they're going to the DSA rather than going to the revolutionaries. Does everyone understand? One in the chat if you understand what I just said. Two in the chat if you're confused. Again, this is the revolutionary socialists telling you what they believe. They're not doing this presentation to trick us. This is their private meeting, okay? Listen again.
Is another form of the question of the petty bourgeois or proletarian character of the labor movement.
Bro.
Reformism is our primary...
I need you... You're not the most detail-oriented guy. I'm going to give you feedback that's supposed to help you if you want to take it in a helpful way. I literally just spent 5 minutes explaining to you how revolutionaries and reformists are infighting, and you literally are seeing a slide right now saying our primary political competitor is reformist socialism. So what do you think this is? What do you think this is? This is literally revolutionary socialists saying, we don't like the reformists. You're watching it right in front of you right now. Now, make no mistake, because conservatives have this misguided notion that you're going to create so much infighting on the left that you're going to defeat them by not doing fucking anything. It doesn't fucking matter how much the revolutionaries don't like the reformists. Like, conservatives doing nothing and just allowing this type of infighting is not actually going to stop them, as evidenced by the success of the DSA. So if you're engaging in any wishful thinking that this type of infighting is going to destroy the left, it is absolutely not. That is not going to happen. This type of infighting has always existed for decades and decades and decades, and still the left gets more powerful. No. We are not engaging in retardation, Riddler. We are not engaging in this level of retarded bullshit. No.
Of the labor movement. Reformism is our primary political competitor, and it shares many of our goals, at least in words. Where we differ is in our understanding of the world and our approach to changing it. In other words, our theory and practice. So what are the alternatives to reformism? Well, first there's Stalinism, the basic idea of which is for a self-proclaimed armed revolutionary vanguard.
They do not like Stalinism. They explicitly denounce Stalinism. They're going to say that Stalinism isn't real socialism because it has a hierarchy.
Well, first there's Stalinism, the basic idea of which is for a self-proclaimed armed revolutionary vanguard to destroy the existing state and establish a single-party dictatorship that rules in the name of the working class. This should be an anathema to anyone committed to democratic values.
See?
But despite it...
Again, when they say democratic values, you have to code switch. When they say democratic or democracy, they mean socialism. Stalinism should be anathema to anyone committed to socialist values, not democratic values, socialist values, because that's what they mean when they say democracy.
That rules in the name of the working class. This should be an anathema to anyone committed to democratic values.
Socialist.
But despite its radical rhetoric, contemporary Stalinism is not an alternative to reformism, but a tendency within it.
Oh, Stalinism
Since Stalin
is reformism.
prescribed the Popular Front to the world's communist parties in 1935, Stalinists have pursued reformist strategies. In the real Marxist tradition, British Marxist John Molyneux considered the elements of Western Stalinism. Quote, reformist pressure group politics, dependence on trade union leaders, alliances with the, quote, left of the bourgeoisie, nationalism, and bureaucratic organization. And he asked, what is...
Hey, thanks so much for the super sticker, bro. Really appreciate that.
Is this but a carbon copy of the elements that made up social democracy, reformist socialism? And then there's revolutionary socialism, or Marxism, which recognizes that the existing state is a mechanism.
Reformist socialism is not real Marxism. That's funny as hell, actually.
Or Marxism, which recognizes that the existing state is a mechanism of capitalist domination that must be dismantled. Only the class-independent self-organization and self-activity of the working class can win reforms and transcend capitalism through revolution. So what is the Marxist view of the state? According to Frederick Engels, the state is nothing but a machine for the oppression of one class by another, and indeed, in the democratic republic, no less than in the monarchy. Elsewhere, he wrote,
anytime they are saying the state in America, they are referring to the United States government. They are referring to the Constitution. They are referring to our current system. Does everyone understand this? Anytime you hear the word the state, They mean the current capitalist bourgeois government. That is what they mean. No, these are Leninists. These are Marxist-Leninists. They do not like Stalin because they believe that Stalin fucked up Lenin's work. So no, that is completely wrong. These are Leninists.
State power is nothing more than the organization with which the ruling classes, landlords, and capitalists have provided themselves in order to protect their social prerogatives. According to Lenin, the state is a product and a manifestation of the irreconcilability of class antagonisms, an organ of class rule, an organ for the oppression of one class by another. It is the creation of order that legalizes and perpetuates this oppression by moderating the conflict between classes in favor of the ruling class, of course. The bourgeois state is not a neutral.
Bourgeois means capitalist. It means the property owner. It means the oppressor. So again, the capitalist state.
Body, as reformists believe. It does not stand above society and cannot be used by any group for its own purposes. It has been historically and structurally designed to defend the ruling class.
The capitalist
It is their
class.
instrument for guaranteeing their accumulation of capital.
See,
the bourgeois state serves to organize the class struggle of the bosses and disorganize that of workers. And it serves to represent the national capital in its rivalry with other states. According to the article we read for tonight by U.S. political Marxist, Tempest member, and co-editor of Spectre Journal, Charlie Post, capitalists don't need the state to enforce economic domination over the working class. I have to take exception to this. While it is true that capitalist social relations are primarily reproduced through the dull compulsions of the market, that market is created and upheld in large part by the state. As U.S. Marxist and labor historian Kim Moody wrote in On New Terrain, for capital, the state is a necessity for social order, the protection of private property and accumulation, defense.
When the left says capitalism, they mean private property ownership. Private property ownership is defined as bourgeois property, property that you can use to build personal privatized wealth, privatized accumulation that creates economic disparities in which some people have more resources than other people. So it's home ownership, land ownership, apartment rental ownership as a landlord, intellectual property ownership, ownership of a private business, whether it's big or small, and parental rights are also considered to be private property ownership because it allows for the passing of private property from parent to child, thus maintaining its privatization rather than everyone having access to it. So they're saying again, they're saying to you, this is our definition of capitalism: private property ownership, private wealth accumulation. When they're talking about overthrowing capitalism, that is what they are talking about overthrowing.
In a competitive and violent world, negotiator of the terms of globalization.
Yeah, but not in the WEF way. The WEF is a completely different thing.
Instrument of imperial expansion and subsidizer. But is the state a tool we can use? We may talk about the state as if it is a thing, like a gun or a car. I just quoted Engels calling it a machine and Lenin calling it a product and an organ, but that is just shorthand. The state is better understood as a relationship between classes. The state is not an entity with an intrinsic instrumental essence, according to Greek-French Marxist Nikos.
Hang on, let me grab this super chat from Leo. Thank you so much for the super chat, bro. After they take over the USA, then what? Then the world? Yeah. Yeah, essentially. So what they believe, and again, I have them on video saying this. Anytime I say what they believe, it's because I've seen them say it. I recorded them saying it. What they believe is that the U.S. is going to be the first major domino to fall, and that if they can get socialism in the U.S., they can get it everywhere. That's not to say that there aren't other places. Looks like you're in New Zealand. New Zealand is way worse than the U.S. is right now. New Zealand, Australia, most of Europe, far more leftist, Canada even, far more leftist than the United States is currently. So you guys actually are in a worse place than we are right now. I'm very sorry about that. I wish there was something I can do about that. But essentially, but just, and of course there are countries that are like socialist or communist, like Cuba, Venezuela, places like that. So, but what they believe is that socialist countries cannot exist within a capitalist system. So they, when people say like, Karlyn, how do they account for the fact that communism has failed over and over and over again? Essentially, the answer is they believe real communism has never been tried. That is actually true. The reason they believe that real communism has never been tried is it's never been tried on a global scale. So they believe that if a socialist country is surrounded by capitalist countries, it will fail because capitalism will force it to fail. So that's why they believe things have failed in the past, because people tried to do socialism or communism on the country level when they should have been trying to do it on the worldwide level. Now, what they believe is the United States is so big that if they overthrow the capitalist system here, it will be a massive domino that echoes around the world. So that is absolutely correct. They believe that if the United States falls, every other country is going to fall eventually. And it's not because they're Christian. Stop lying. Stop lying. The Denver communists are not protesting a coffee shop because they are Christian. They are protesting it over the queer liberation bullshit. So please, listen. I understand you think you know what you're talking about, but I can tell based on the chats that you don't really know what you're talking about. They are not, and I don't like it when people lie to people in my chat. They are not protesting the Drip Cafe, which we've probably known about longer than you have, to be honest with you. They're protesting it because of their queer liberation bullshit, not because of anything to do with Christianity, not because of anything related to Islam. That is not true. We've covered this on the channel before. Don't think you're telling us new information that I don't know. Please. Please. Anyway, let's go back.
The state is better understood as a relationship between classes.
Yeah, got you, bro. Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate it.
The state is not an entity with an intrinsic instrumental essence, according to Greek-French Marxist Nikos Poulantzas. But it is itself a relation, more precisely the condensation of a class relation.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, we have people undercover with the Denver communists. We know what the Denver communists are saying. It has nothing to do with them being Christian. Nothing at all.
And in Charlie Post's words, the capitalist state is itself the institutional crystallization of capital's dominance over labor. If the state were a mere tool, it could be snatched from the hands of the bosses and used for our purposes. But Karl Marx was so convinced that this was not the case that 25 years after co-authoring the Communist Manifesto, the only change he thought necessary to it was to concretely state that the working class cannot simply lay hold of the ready-made state machinery and wield it for its own purposes. So what is the historical record of reform?
This guy should record insomnia content to help people sleep. This is not for your fucking entertainment. This is to learn what the left believes. This is not supposed to be. Do you want to know? Do you want to know why people like you don't know what the fuck the left believes? Because you watch TikTok fucking clickbait and you think that's reality. Like, people like you have the attention spans of absolute fucking retarded kindergarteners because you spend all your time getting your information from TikTok videos with quick cuts and lightning bolts and special effects, and then you encounter real shit in the real world and you don't know what the fuck is happening, and you can't even focus on it because you have made yourself fucking retarded by getting all your information from TikTok. This is not for your entertainment, and if you can't learn to shut the fuck up and watch what's going on, just get the fuck out.
Reformism. The history of socialists' attempt to reform the state and vote socialism into power has only resulted in the socialists administering austerity and imperialism on behalf of capital, adapting to nationalism, disorienting and disorganizing the working class, and making no advance toward overturning the mode of production. Reformist socialist governments have capitulated and abandoned reforms in the face of capitalist resistance.
See?
Resign themselves to managing.
Capitalism gets reformist socialist governments to abandon their plans because capitalism will always oppress them no matter what.
And making no advance toward overturning the mode of production. Reformist socialist governments have capitulated and abandoned reforms in the face of capitalist resistance, resign themselves to managing capitalism, and open the road to repression of the workers' movement. Examples abound, such as Spain under the Popular Front from 1936 to 39, Chile under Allende from 1970 to 73, France under Mitterrand in the early 80s, South Africa under the ANC since 1994, Bolivia under Evo Morales from 2006 to 2019, Greece under Syriza in 2016, and Venezuela today. According to British Marxist and Latin American historian Mike Gonzalez, one of the key lessons of Allende's Chile is that in moments of rising struggle, the enemy of revolution is reformism, the politics of those more committed to.
The enemy of revolution is reformism. Again, they're saying, the revolutionary communists are saying again, the reformists are our biggest enemy. The reformists are trying to work within the system. We're trying to overthrow the system. The enemy of the revolution is reformism, the politics of those more committed to the defense of the bourgeois, the capitalist state, than the transformation of the world. Revolutionary socialists believe that reformist socialists are one of the biggest obstacles standing in their way to achieving their revolution against the capitalist state, the bourgeois state.
Is that in moments of rising struggle, the enemy of revolution is reformism, the politics of those more committed to the defense of the bourgeois state than to the transformation of the world. Thanks to reformist and Stalinist ideas, the 20th century saw social movements and labor struggles abandon tactics of mass disruption and attempt to advance their goals through state institutions and legal means. After the Soviet Union allied with the liberal capitalist powers against Nazi Germany, Stalin.
The Soviet Union allied with the liberals in Nazi Germany. Liberals are fascists too, guys, according to revolutionary communists.
After the Soviet Union allied with the liberal capitalist powers against Nazi Germany, Stalin
against Nazi Germany,
ordered the world's communist parties to adopt the Popular Front strategy as a complement. The idea was that an enlightened section of the capitalist class would prefer a bourgeois democratic state to an authoritarian one, and would tolerate reform to ensure the stability of their profit-making system. Popular frontism takes reformism to the level of a system, in the words of Robert Brenner, US Marxist and economic historian. Workers were instructed to ally with the liberal bourgeoisie in the interest of democracy, civil liberties, and reform. During World War II, the labor movement and the CPUSA, the Communist Party USA, promoted labor peace by asking workers to give up the strike weapon in order to ensure uninterrupted war production. The AFL and CIO were offered a seat in the state apparatus via representation on a variety of wartime boards. Union bureaucratization and a system of industrial jurisprudence based on the grievance procedure displaced strike action. These dynamics of demobilization and subjugation to one of the boss's parties have resulted in working class passivity in social movements that have been unable to win or defend substantive reforms. The exceptions only succeeded by rejecting reformist approaches, like the Black liberation struggle of the 50s and 60s. Yet in 1965, U.S.
Oh, you people are so fucking stupid. Okay, this is strike 2 for you because you already said some stupid retarded shit earlier, and we told you very nicely, I think, to stop saying stupid retarded shit. Honey, you live in Denver? You live in Denver, one of the most socialist populated cities in the fucking country, and you haven't figured out yet that socialists have guns too? Are you fucking stupid? Are you smart enough to be here? Do you know how many gun groups exist on the far left? They have guns too, you fucking abject fucking retard.
Reformist socialist Bayard Rustin instructed the civil rights movement to move from protest to politics, meaning from the streets into the voting booth.
Imagine being hang on. What the fuck am I hearing?
That, but into the
Hang on. Why the fuck am I hearing something? What the fuck? Can you guys hear what I'm hearing? That's coming from my phone. Hang on. That's coming from my phone, but it shouldn't be coming from my phone. Why the fuck am I hearing something? Hang on, you guys probably can't hear what I'm hearing. Hang on. Okay. Oh god, it stopped. I could not hear myself think. It's just me. I had a video of mine blaring in my own ear. I was like, what the fuck is happening? Thank you, Lisa O'Grady. I will add that as a membership. Thank you. Okay. Crisis averted. I'm a professional streamer on the internet, as you guys know. Okay. Back to berating that retard in my chat. Back to berating the retard in my chat. Imagine being a non-communist living in Denver, Colorado. Again, Denver is objectively one of the most leftist cities currently in the country right now. Imagine being a non-communist living in Denver, Colorado, and really thinking, no, they don't know what they're doing, and we've got all the guns, and there's nothing they can do to stop us. Honey, they've taken over your entire fucking city, and you haven't done fuck off about it. Like, imagine being a conservative living in Denver saying, they don't know what's coming to them, and if they try to overthrow the government, we're going to show them with all the guns 1776. They've already taken over your entire fucking city. The communists have taken over Denver. Where the fuck were you? Why didn't you do anything? We're gonna stop them 1776. They don't know who they're messing with. Okay, well, they took over your city. You already lost. Denver is gone. Denver's not coming back. Not coming back, ever. So, perhaps, magatards, perhaps, it's time to start trying things a little differently. It's time to start hinging into reality. Because if you think you're getting back Denver with 1776, we could all, like, you are fucking insane, actually. Thank you. Best teacher of the far left on the internet. Thank you, Suzanne. I appreciate you very, very much. Thank you for the super chat. We got a gifted channel membership from Ninja Artist. W's, my dear. Thank you.
Democratic Party. Even in the face of success, reformists point us toward defeat. The Popular Front's dual policy of permeating and allying with the left wing of the trade union bureaucracy.
Me too. This is aging
and working
me.
For reform.
The stupidity is aging me. I can't afford this. I have spent thousands of dollars on skincare products to remain looking young at 45 years old. I can't take this level of retardation. Conservatives are going to start giving me fucking wrinkles and gray hair, and I'm not going to fucking allow it.
Through electoral and legislative means within the Democratic Party remains the dominant strategy of the U.S. socialist movement. Because the bourgeois state represents
I know, I might actually turn 30 next year. I know, it's all their fault.
Dominance over labor, it is an obstacle to working class goals, not an avenue for their pursuit. Reliance on struggle within state institutions is a dead end for winning and defending reforms, and even more so for fighting for socialism. The repressive institutions, democratic in form, are in content the instruments of the interests of the ruling class. according to Rosa Luxemburg. She continued, as soon as democracy shows the tendency to negate its class character, in other words, the rule of the bourgeoisie over workers.
Yeah, you're noticing that? You're noticing that there's a lot of ex-military? I was reliably told by conservatives that all veterans were conservatives. You're noticing a lot of ex-military in the protests against ICE? Yep. You want to know why? There is no anti-war right. There is no place to go for people to be on the right and be anti-war. They have to go to the left. The entire anti-war movement right now is on the left. There is no option on the right. And so for a lot of people, and people don't want to hear this, being anti-war is actually one of their primary political positions, and that is especially true of veterans who have served in actual war. So that's why you're seeing so many veterans groups pop up on the left, because it's the only option they have. And once they get sucked into leftist politics, it's not just being about anti-war, it's about being anti-ICE, because ICE is part of the imperialist capitalist system that causes war in the first place. They see these issues as interconnected. And I'll tell you what, too, the left right now is actively recruiting veterans. The right is not doing it because the right is deluded enough to believe that everyone in the military is a conservative, which is just not true, like provably, just like factually hinging into reality. The left is actively trying to recruit and build out more veterans groups. So, yeah, good observation. Good observation. Thank you, Surrey, Class Dues, and K Beauty Fun. Hey, thanks for that, bro. Really appreciate it. Yeah, you guys, it really should be conservatives who are paying for all my skincare products. It really should be. I am aging because conservatives are driving me insane. So you assholes should be paying for my skincare products. Pay up.
And as soon as it negates its class character and becomes transformed into an instrument of the real interests of the population, then the democratic forms are sacrificed by the bourgeoisie. We saw this most clearly in the 1973 coup against Salvador Allende in Chile, when the democratic forms were dropped and the right took over the government. In thinking we can take over the government by democratic means, reformists are preoccupied with the formal side of democracy.
Hey, Lucy, just a word of advice. We don't make shit up here. We don't make shit up. I don't think you have any basis to say it's 50-50. I think you're engaging in wishful thinking and you're making shit up. So we don't do that here. You might do this every other place on the internet. We do not do that here. Either provide evidence or no.
But do not take into account its other side, its real content, class rule. Thanks to the ruling class's domination of the state and its legal system, its vast fortunes to buy political favor, and its monopoly on violence, the ruling class has options if democracy ever threatens its power. So what is the revolutionary strategy? The road to revolution runs through mass, disruptive, often illegal, political and economic struggle. Strikes, protests, occupations, and uprisings that cripple the economy.
Oh, they want to do an uprising.
So
here is how their revolution is going to work, guys. They're going to do strikes, protests, and occupations with the specific intent of crippling the economy. The left is telling you how they're going to spark their revolution. They're telling you, here is how we're going to overthrow the government. Yeah, your lived experience, Lucy, doesn't mean a fuck off thing to me. Do you know how stupid you guys sound when you're like, my lived experience is X, Y? You sound like a fucking leftist. I don't give a fuck about your lived experience. We are hinging into reality. We are looking at evidence. And right now we're talking about how the left is going to enact a revolution to overthrow the government. So perhaps put your fucking feelings in check and pay the fuck attention. The road to revolution runs through mass, disruptive, often illegal, political, and economic struggle. They're telling you they are going to engage in illegal activity to get their communist revolution, including strikes like the mass general strike they had planned in May of 2028, protests like they do all the fucking time, occupation, which is what they're trying to do in major American cities, and uprisings that cripple the economy. They want to shut down the economy. They are actively planning, and have been for a while, a mass nationwide general strike on May 1st, 2028, with the explicit goal of crippling the economy. They are doing this in the open, and almost no one is talking about it. And the revolutionary communists are telling you, this is how we are going to spark the revolution. This is how we are going to overthrow the capitalist system. This is not Cloward Piven. I know that's the right's favorite obsession. That is not what this is. That is not what this is. Listen.
The revolutionary strategy. The road to revolution runs through mass, disruptive, often illegal, political and economic struggle. Strikes, protests, occupations, and uprisings that cripple the economy. Fights against the bosses and fights for reforms are crucial insofar as they raise class consciousness and organize and train the class. But according to Luxemburg, once they are considered as instruments of the direct socialization of the capitalist economy, they lose not only their usual effectiveness, but cease being a means of preparing the working class for the conquest of power. If trade union and reform struggle is separated from the movement and considered an end in itself, such activity not only does not lead to the final goal of socialism, but moves in a precisely opposite direction. Organs of working class power, like trade unions, political parties, local assemblies, and workers' councils, must be built to mobilize workers and eventually convert themselves into instruments of popular rule. Ultimately, in Charlie Post's formulation, the organs of popular power would have to frontally assault the core institutions of the existing capitalist state and replace them with a worker state based on the highest forms of working class self-organization, workers' councils. Organizations of revolutionaries embedded in struggle, educated in theory and in practice, and capable of moving the process forward are necessary at every step. But revolution cannot be accomplished by the sheer will of socialists, nor is it inevitable due to some law of capitalism. Certain social conditions must ripen. A ruling class crisis.
We got Prita in with the 5 gifted channel memberships. W's to you, my dear. Thank you so much for supporting this stream. Really appreciate it. Yeah, this is something that we hear commonly from people who think they understand the left and they really don't. Basically, we get conservatives who come in here, or sometimes libertarians, and go, all of their ideas aren't bad. Well, no, stop, no. You do not agree with the premise of their argument. You might agree that capitalism has flaws, not for the same reason they do. You might agree that the cops are bad, not for the same reason they do. You might you might not like some of the tactics ICE is engaging in, not for the same reasons they do. Everything you think you agree with them on, you probably do not agree with the foundation of what they believe. So no, this is not true. And if you harp on this and say, oh, I actually agree with the socialists, you're asking for a world of hurt, to be honest with you.
Acute mass suffering, and a sharp increase in independent political activity. For mass mobilization to assume a revolutionary trajectory, the conscious and organized intervention of revolutionary socialists is necessary. And to conclude, the current task of the revolutionary socialist left is to rebuild a militant minority of what Italian Marxist Antonio Gramsci called permanent persuaders, capable of spreading class consciousness and promoting class-independent political action among a decisive layer of the exploited and oppressed.
Okay.
That
So
is the basic purpose.
that is the Revolutionary Communists of America telling you flat out, that their goal, let's see, where was the slide? There it is. That is the Revolutionary Communists of America telling you guys flat out that reformist socialists like the DSA are their biggest political enemy, that the road to revolution goes through them doing illegal things to overthrow the capitalist system outside of elections. That is what they're doing. They're explicit about this. This is a presentation basically that could be called how socialists are going to overthrow the government. Does everyone understand this? This is why it is deeply important that you understand the language of the left, because if you don't understand the language of the left, you do not understand what you are listening to. This is a group of revolutionary socialists telling you, fuck the DSA. We don't believe in elections. We're going to engage in mass disruptive, often illegal behaviors to cripple the economy. And our goal is explicitly to overthrow the government, abolish the Constitution, abolish the current electoral system. 1 in the chat if you understand what I just said. 2 in the chat if you're confused. 1 in the chat if you understand what I just said. 2 in the chat if you're confused. So if you're off put by the fact that I won't coddle your fucking feelings or your conservative bullshit narrative that you come into the chat with, if you guys are put off by my fucking attitude, just understand that I'm trying to get you to fucking understand these people are actively planning to shut down the economy, to overthrow the government, and I don't give a flying fuck about how much that hurts your fucking feelings. I don't give a flying fuck about how much my tone hurts your fucking feelings. I don't give a flying fuck if you don't like that I call out the conservative bullshit narrative, because they are working right now to try to overthrow the government, and conservatives and magatards, that's actually more important than your fucking feelings. The Denver Communists, ladies and gentlemen.
For
the Denver
reforms.
Communists. Well, since you guys reached the over 50% mark, we were actually at 57 channel memberships given out today. I don't know why YouTube is not keeping up with this. That's weird. But we are at 57 channel memberships given out today. Guys, we have a goal of getting 100 new channel members today. If you appreciate the work I'm doing, exposing you to things on the left no one else is teaching you, please feel free to show your gratitude by throwing in some channel memberships. We are now going to move into our second video of the day. It's a little bit longer than the first, and it is about why socialists must be anti-racist. Yeah, good fucking luck when you don't understand your enemy. Good luck. That's not going to go anywhere in Denver. That You know what? Go pretend you're doing something for a little while. You go give that a try. You go give that a try. You start a Denver anti-communist alliance to take back the city of Denver from the left. You go give that a try. You go give that a try. You see if that works. Go. Good luck. Good luck, girl. Good luck. You're not going to do anything productive, but good luck. Good luck. I'm sure you guys are going to make some memes that are really going to amuse you. Good luck. Good luck, girl. Good luck. Go do it. Accent W's to you, my friend. Thank you for the 5 gifted channel memberships. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm trying to help the retards understand, and the retards are more concerned about their feelings. But, you know, whatever. I can only do what I can do. I can only do what I can do. I can only do what I can do. Yeah, if you retards in Denver use any violence, I will denounce you publicly and I will kick your ass out of my community. I'm going to tell you that. If the retard conservatives of Denver start showing up at Denver communist events and acting like raging fucking morons, we will denounce your asses just as quickly as we denounce the communists, just so you know. Anyway, let's move into our second video to learn why Marxists must be anti-racist.
Marxism and anti-racism, to me, seem like two very similar things, complementary at the very least. If not oranges to tangerines, they're peanut butter to jelly. But this isn't a view that is shared by all, even those among the broad left. Some say that Marx had nothing to say on race, gender, family, and they try to distance Marxism from modern day issues, saying that it's not a useful framework to solve the problems that we face today. These persuasive voices have unfortunately seen some success in diverting people away from Marxism. However, I will argue the counter today, that Marxism actually describes a way of seeing the world. And because the world is always changing, it's not a hard-coded set of rules to live by. So there is flexibility there, but even Marx himself was consistently opposed to European colonialism and was an optimist when it came to slave rebellions in America during the Civil War and all over the world, in fact. And these views...
Slave rebellions were a form of the proletariat rising up to overthrow their capitalist oppressors, because slave rebellions were a rebellion against private property ownership. As we all know, if you follow my work, whiteness means capitalism. Whiteness is not about the color of your skin. Whiteness is a reference to the capitalist system. Slaves were property owned within the capitalist system. The slave owners were the bourgeoisie capitalists who owned the private property. Therefore, slave rebellions are about the dictatorship of the proletariat overthrowing the capitalist oppressors. 1 in the chat if you understand what I just said. 2 in the chat if you're confused.
Influenced his politics directly. Perhaps the most common myth that we hear is that Marxism is Eurocentric. But this is quite to the contrary of what the speaker from tonight's material found. And I really appreciated Brian's work putting that talk together. I thought it was really informative. So, of course, if you have not had a chance to give that a listen, would definitely recommend it. It is kind of long. It's about an hour and a half, but I put it on while I was at work and did a little bit of time theft there. So anyway.
Time theft,
So I'll start with a brief summary of his talk. He quoted a piece from Marx's manifesto that said, "The country that is more developed industrially only shows to the less developed the image of its own future." Marx is describing what we see with Western colonialism. One country, the stronger capitalist country, violently asserting its will into a country that doesn't have as much military might.
See? The military is capitalism, it's imperialism.
Because Brian recalls a revision that Marx made to Das Kapital, responding to a reader that criticized Marx that communism just wanted to make everything like Europe, to carve out other nations in the image of the great communist or something. But Marx actually responded directly to this criticism in a revision that he made, saying that it's going to be different everywhere, that Das Kapital is about what's happening in Western Europe only. You see, he was writing his observations on events as they happen. He wasn't reflecting on things that had happened decades ago with a lot of other people's research and understanding. Though, of course, Marx did certainly have some knowledge and inspirations. When it came to the Taiping Rebellion in China, Marx said, "The peasants in the non-capitalist world are striking a blow for freedom and democracy, and it's going to have a dramatic effect in Europe." Marx was excited to see the peasants rising up. I imagine him as a sort of bubbly, bearded man, just kind of bouncing at the news. He wanted them to succeed, not only for it to succeed, but for it to influence politics in Europe as well. This seems pretty contrary to Eurocentrism. During the anti-colonial revolts in India in 1857, again, we see Marx opposing the British colonial rule. He called the revolts delicious and used colorful language to describe the British forces, such as dogs, asses, oxen, blockheads.
Oxen.
We can
Oxen.
see from just these few examples that I'm giving from Brian's brief examples that Marx was very plugged in to world events. He was paying attention to what was happening in the world around him. And we constantly see him opposing colonialism across the world. He was cheering them on, recording their wins, analyzing their losses. The struggles taking place outside of Europe inspired his politics and his writing. In general, Marx is far from perfect on a human level, but I think he was ahead of his time in much, compared to much of the world, with his analysis that extends all the way to chattel slavery in the United States. Which brings us to another common myth that we hear, is that Marx didn't talk about race. So it's pointless to use Marxism as a framework to fight and ultimately destroy racism. Now, maybe he didn't use those specific terms, but again, remember Marx is writing from Germany about this time period as it's happening, not after decades of hindsight. He did write specifically about chattel slavery in America and also about the slave trade across Africa. While some may say that Marxist theories exclusively revolve around economic issues, Marx recognized the role that it played, that slavery played in the capitalist trade. He said,
communism in America. Okay, so for people who are new, what we do on this channel, we don't talk about historical communism. We don't talk about the philosophy of communism. We're not going to go back and read Marx and Engels and Gramsci and Hegel and all that stuff. We're not trying to, well, that's okay, old sub. I would love for you to live forever. Thanks for being a member of the channel for 8 months. I want the stupid boomers to die off. I want the stupid boomers who are sending me death threats and trying to dox where I live and threatening to come and beat me up and trying to destroy me on the internet because I like a movie they didn't. I would like them to die off as quickly as possible, though by natural means, no violence, nothing like that. But smart boomers like you can live forever. I don't give a fuck. We need natural selection to take place, old sub. We do. I hope you live forever. Yeah, the pillow fucking come. No violence. No. You have to let them die naturally. I know we just want to get it over with. I know, but we cannot. I have to denounce. No pillow, no violence, no disruptions to the natural order. Just let time work its magic, okay? It's going to happen eventually, and then we will be free of the boomer fucking menace. And then we can actually get down to work, all right? Anyway, back to this. So, on this channel, we study what activists are doing today. We do not go back and look at the historical stuff, with rare exception. The only reason we would go back to look at the historical stuff is to understand how it influenced current activists today. One of the things that you are going to find when you study real leftist activism and not just like the stuff that you hear about like on conservative media where they're trying to give you a history lesson and all that bullshit, is that the institution of slavery is central and formative to how leftist activism works in America today. It is central and formative to how the entire far left evolved as an organizing unit, because slavery is fundamentally about private property ownership. And so viewing slavery as an institution, the institution that built America, the institution of private property ownership that built America, no fucking Fed posting in the chat, the institution of private property ownership that built America, that is central to how the far left sees America as the main capitalist entity that they want to overthrow. They literally believe that capitalism built America, and that is why they want to overthrow the government and abolish the Constitution, because they believe that they cannot overthrow capitalism without overthrowing the institution that capitalism built, which is America. Hope that makes sense to everyone. Let me know if you have questions. Little Miss, thank you so much for the super chat. This is a donation for our research group. Hi, family. Hey, Little Miss. Appreciate you guys. Thanks so much.
Direct slavery is just as much the pivot of the bourgeois industry as machinery, loans, etc. Without slavery, you have no cotton. Without cotton, you have no modern industry. It is slavery that has given the colonies their value. It is the colonies that have created world trade. And it is the world trade.
This is a socialist telling you slavery is fundamental to the development of the American capitalist state. He's saying what I just said to you, but in more socialist type language.
Marx recognized the role that it played, that slavery played.
Derpy Dan, W's to you, sir. Thank you so much for the gifted channel membership. Really appreciate it.
In the capitalist trade. He said, direct slavery is just as much the pivot of the bourgeois industry as machinery, loans, etc. Without slavery, you have no cotton. Without cotton, you have no modern industry. It is slavery that has given the colonies their value. It is the colonies that have created world trade, and it is the world trade that is the precondition of large-scale industry. Thus, slavery is an economic category of the greatest importance. Without slavery, North America, one of the most progressive countries, would be transformed into a patriarchal country. Wipe out North America from the map of the world, and you will have anarchy and complete decay of modern commerce and civilization.
Wow, that's a bold claim. Hey, thanks W's to you, Little Miss. Appreciate the channel membership very much.
Cause slavery to disappear, and you will have wiped America off the map of nations. Thus, slavery, because of its economic category, has always existed amongst the...
America would not exist without slavery. Well, yeah, they believe all the land was stolen. They believe all the land was stolen land. So yeah, for them, it's basically equivalent of the same thing. America would not exist without slavery. America is a capitalist country, a capitalist state that was created by the private property ownership of slaves.
Institutions of the peoples. Modern nations have been able to disguise slavery in their own countries, but they impose it without disguise upon the new world. Meaning that countries will take advantage of their own people, try to, be nice about it, cover it up, but they're very mask off when it comes to enslaving the rest of the world. I know Marx said a lot of words there, but he did say slaves built America, and our capitalist world depends on the American economy. Therefore, the world is where it is due to the exploitation of slaves.
What did I just say? Slavery built America. This is the capitalist economy. What did I just say? Literally, he just said what I said. It's like I know these people better than they know themselves. Listen.
Be nice about it, cover it up, but they're very mask off when it comes to enslaving the rest of the world. I know Marx said a lot of words there, but he did say slaves built America, and our capitalist world depends on the American economy. Therefore, the world is where it is due to the exploitation of slaves, whose families still exist today without reparations and still subject to exploitation and oppression.
Yes.
Around 1850.
And this is a really good point from Average Person. When they say America is an inherently racist country, or America is a fundamentally racist country, or ICE is a fundamentally racist institution, or the police are a fundamentally racist institution, it's because they believe that everything was built on top of slavery, which is the private ownership of people as property.
1958 to 1860, U.S. abolitionist John Brown sought to lead a series of revolts in Missouri, attempting to incite wider slave uprisings across the country. Most notably was the raid on Harper's Ferry. Unfortunately, these uprisings were not successful, and Brown and his contingent were raided by the U.S. Marines on October 18th that year. They rushed Brown's trial and charged him with treason against the Commonwealth, inciting a slave rebellion and killing some slave owners. They sentenced him to death on November 2nd, just 2 weeks after the raid. He served a mandatory 30-day sentence in prison, and they executed him on December 2nd. That's a month and a half from the day of the raid to the day of his death, his execution, I should say. In 1860, Marx wrote to Engels about this rebellion, saying, "The most momentous thing happening in the world today is the slave movement in America, started by the death of Brown. I have just seen in the Tribune that that's been another slave revolt in Missouri, which has been put down, needless to say. But the signal has now been given." Marx and Engels actually wrote to each other a great deal about the American Civil War and took the side of the Union, but not without critique of the Union, saying that they needed to arm the slaves. Let me repeat that. Marx said to arm the slaves. He said a single regiment would have a remarkable effect upon Southern nerves. Engels writes back to Marx disagreeing, saying that the Union doesn't have the heart, doesn't have the guts to do it, doubted Lincoln's resolve to free the slaves. But Marx was optimistic and believed that the North had a secret weapon that they had yet to realize. He saw that the American people were disunited along the lines of race and nationality, and saw great potential if both sides could come together with a common goal to overthrow their common enemy. Marx knew that racism was tied to capitalism. That's why he didn't propose that slavery would end once capitalists learned some decency or empathy.
Marx knew that slavery was tied to capitalism. When the left says racism, they are saying capitalism. When the left says anti-racist, they mean anti-capitalist. Slavery upholds the capitalist order. It is private property ownership. Oh, God. Do socialists define personal property differently than private property? Yes. Yes. And this is a trick that they use to try to convince you that they don't want to take your stuff. Socialists will say, we don't want to take your stuff. We don't want to take your personal property. We're just trying to take the means of production. That is not true. Private property is distinct from personal property. They are playing word games to try to trick you. Private property means bourgeois property, property that you can use to build and maintain personal private wealth that gives you access to more resources than other people. It includes things like home ownership, land ownership, apartment rental ownership that you rent out as a landlord. They hate landlords. It means intellectual property. It means ownership of a private business, whether or not that private business is big or small. And it means your parental rights over your children, because that allows for the passing of generational wealth from parent to child, which means the wealth stays private. All of those are elements of bourgeois private property. When the left says personal property, no, I didn't say security systems, did I? Guys, I am very precise in my language. I've been teaching this shit a long time. If I did not say something as part of the list, that thing is not included on the list. You're not going to get fancy and try to get me to add things. It is home ownership, land ownership, apartment rental ownership, intellectual property, private business, parental rights. That's it. That is what they mean by bourgeois property. Everything else is considered to be personal property. So things like your toothbrush, your car, your dog, your books, your computer, those are all considered to be personal property. They are not private property. They are a different thing. So when the left is saying, don't worry, we don't want to take your personal property, we just want to overthrow the means of production, what they're saying is they don't want to take your toothbrush or your books or your computer or your dog or your car, because you cannot usually use those things by themselves to create individualized wealth that puts you at significantly more resources than the masses. But if they're talking about your home is not personal property. Your home is private property. If they're talking about land that you own, that is private property. That is not personal property. If they're talking about an apartment rental, that is private property. That is not personal property. If they're talking about intellectual property, that is private property. That is not personal property. If they're talking about your business that you started, that is private property. That is not personal property. And if we're talking about parental rights over your kids, that is private property. That is not personal property. Hope that answers the question.
He saw what the capitalists intended to do when he said, the discovery of gold and silver in America, the extirpation.
Actually, we're going to go back and listen to them say
slavery
that
of gold
capitalism
and
is
silver
racism again. Hang on.
nationality. People were disunited along the lines of race and nationality and saw great potential if both sides could come together with a common goal to overthrow their common enemy. Marx knew that racism was tied to capitalism. That's why he didn't propose that slavery would end once capitalists learned some decency or empathy. He saw what the capitalists intended to do when he said, the discovery of gold and silver in America, the extirpation, enslavement, and entombment in mines of the Aboriginal population, the beginning of the conquest and looting of the East Indies, the turning of Africa into a warren for the commercial hunting of black skins. This all signals the rosy dawn of the era of capitalist production. He saw that it was all connected. He also saw that white workers were buying into an ideology that did not benefit them. He predicted that workers with many overlapping interests and common goals could become mortal enemies through racist and nationalist ideas. And so it's no mistake when we see Marx writing over and over again about workers uniting and opposing these ideas. So this begs the question, what's with white workers? Why don't they just throw away these backwards ideas and unite with their fellow black workers?
So what they're saying here, now they are talking about skin color, okay? You need to learn nuance and discernment when you are approaching this topic. I don't want to hear anyone say, Karlyn, this disproves that whiteness means capitalism. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Sometimes when they are explaining the concept, they go back to talking about skin color. What they are actually saying is this has nothing to do with skin color. This has to do with class. They're saying, why are workers that are white aligning with the capitalist class? They should be aligning with the worker class because they're workers. Because to them, the question is always about the bourgeois, the property owner. I'm not here to learn from you, robot. The bourgeois, the property owner versus the working class. To them, anyone who is not a property owner, anyone who is not part of the bourgeois elite is a worker. And they should be aligning together regardless of skin color. On the same token, if a person with black skin color is a capitalist, a private property owner, a business owner, they believe that person is a traitor to their class. Okay? This is why you hear them going after ICE officials that are black or brown or any of those things, because they believe they are literally class traitors if they are engaging and supporting the capitalist order. So it is not about skin color. It is about creating a class war because that is fundamentally how they see the world.
The answer is that the poison needs to be just sweet enough that they continue to drink it. To be a bit bold here, I decided to put the question right out there. Do white people benefit from racism?
That means, do white people benefit from capitalism? That's what that means. Do white people benefit from capitalism? Does everyone understand that? That's what, One in the chat if you understand that this slide says, do white people benefit from capitalism? 2 in the chat if you don't understand that, because he's about to say, I promise you, he's about to say that the capitalist system oppresses everyone. So no, people with white skin color don't actually benefit from capitalism because they're oppressed by capitalism just like everyone else. That's what he's about to say. That's going to be the argument. And so to understand this argument, you have to understand the basis that when they say racism, they don't mean skin color, they mean capitalism. Okay, looks like everyone's tracking. Okay, let's hear him say it. I promise you that's what he's going to say.
To be a bit bold here, I decided to put the question right out there. Do white people benefit from racism? Like, think about it. If you've read the reading tonight, you probably have an opinion already. In my opinion, as a white transgender Marxist, I say a little bit of column A, a little of column B. The Kiana Yamada-Taylor, the author of Socialist Worker reading from tonight, seems to have a similar stance, but I think we come to it in a slightly different way. I just feel more inclined to outrightly say that white people do benefit from racism, but it is in a way that only furthers their own delusion that they exist within a system that gives a shit about them. That they are special little chosen ones with remarkable characteristics for simply being white. A semi-sweet poison that numbs their senses, but not immune to its full and lasting effects. There are white people on the street. There are white people in prison. White business owners are not immune to bankruptcy and predatory loan practices. The system is not above devouring white people.
They're talking about the capitalist system oppressing white people, just like it oppresses everyone else. Who called that? Can I get around to Karlyn was right in the chat? This would be a great time to make some progress towards our channel membership goal, by the way. If you appreciate that I literally predicted what the socialists were going to say and broke it down for you before they said it. I haven't watched this before. I have no idea what this says. If you appreciate my breakdown of what they were going to teach you before they actually did it, if you learned something new, please feel free to throw in some channel memberships. We're trying to get 100 new channel memberships today. I would appreciate it. Now would be a great time to do it, especially to celebrate the fact that I called it explicitly. What he's saying is that capitalism fundamentally oppresses everyone, regardless of whether they're white or not. Another dollar in the Karlyn was right tip jar. Thank you so much for appreciating that I'm always right and that everyone should always listen to me. Listen again. He's saying when he's saying white people in this slide, I want people to understand this. I really want people to understand what they're saying. When he's saying white people in this slide, he is talking about skin color. The argument that he's making is that capitalism oppresses everyone of every skin color, okay? That's the argument. So when he's talking about the system, when he's talking about economics, he's saying that's oppressing people with white skin color just like it's oppressing people with black skin color. Therefore, this is not a skin color issue. This is a class issue, and all the people who are part of the working class are oppressed by the same system. The system is capitalism. When they say racism, they mean capitalism.
To be a bit bold here, I decided to put the question right out there. Do white people benefit from racism? Like, think about it. If you've read the reading tonight, you probably have an opinion already. In my opinion, as a white transgender Marxist, I say a little bit of column A, a little of column B. The Kiana Yamada-Taylor, the author of Socialist Worker reading from tonight, seems to have a similar stance, but I think we come to it in a slightly different way. I just feel more inclined to outrightly say that white people do benefit from racism, but it is in a way that only furthers their own delusion that they exist within a system that gives a shit about them, that they are special little chosen ones with remarkable characteristics for simply being white. a semi-sweet poison that numbs their senses, but not immune to its full and lasting effects. There are white people on the street. There are white people in prison. White business owners are not immune to bankruptcy and predatory loan practices. The system is not above devouring white people just as well as Black and brown and indigenous people. But it would be a huge mistake to not also point out to the extent to which white workers in America are exploited and oppressed is dramatically less than that of Black and brown people. It is no secret that non-white households bring in less than white households. They're also subject to more unfair, unsafe, and many times openly hostile interactions that affect their entire lives while working, accessing goods and services.
Well, no, not really. Not really. Not really. You didn't understand what they were saying. When they said white privilege, they didn't mean skin color. They meant capitalist privilege. Privilege of property ownership. That is what they meant. So if you have some sort of deluded notion that it was ever about skin color, that is because conservative media lied to you and they didn't properly understand what they were talking about. It was never about skin color. It was about the privilege of property ownership, being someone who had private property, being someone that owned a home, being someone that owned an apartment rental that you rented out as a landlord, being someone that owned land, parental rights that you benefited from your parents giving you an inheritance, things like that. That is what they were saying. That was always the definition. And if you don't understand that, I'm not trying to make fun of you, but I am trying to explain to you, it is because your own media lied to you because they didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. And that is why you have the misguided notion that it was about skin color when it was never about skin color. Literally never about skin color. Never from the very beginning.
Simply existing in public spaces. Things could change at a moment's notice, and suddenly, because of one shitty white person, their day or life could be ruined. We see it all the time in the news. It's a real threat that can live rent-free in the minds of oppressed people, whether there's danger active or not. Now, this presentation could be another hour longer if I added a section about only recent murders and missing persons cases involving Black victims. Even more if we could add on police brutality. Stories about Black people going out with their white...
You know who else had white privilege? Black business owners in Minnesota during the 2020 BLM riots. Black business owners also had white privilege. Indian supervisors also have white privilege. Asians also have white privilege. Like Italians also have white privilege. Even back in the day when we're talking about the assimilation of the Italians and the Irish, they all had white privilege. It's all about property ownership. It was never about race.
Friends only to mysteriously never come home, going to a party with their white friends only to get assaulted physically and verbally or worse. There is a credible reason to distrust white people. And while we could say not all white people, we could also say not all men in regards to women choosing the bear. I would theorize it's because of this perceived superiority. It doesn't matter how baseless it is. They perceive themselves in such a way and they act in accordance. But I cannot understate how terrible this is. Not just because it isolates workers from one another, but because it is inhuman to treat people inhumanely. That should be obvious, but it feels like it needs to be stated here in 2026. But it's also true that white people have very little to show for their bigotry at the end of the day, and yet they fall for it anyway.
Capitalism is oppressing them.
Many of the advantages that they perceive only exist in delusion. Some workers adopt beliefs and ideas like white supremacy that do not benefit them materially, but they do provide some psychological high. Engels, who we talked about previously, writing Marx about the Civil War, Engels called this phenomenon false consciousness. W.E.B. Du Bois would later explain how false consciousness affects workers in the South and reasons why a real labor movement didn't arise from the ending of slavery. He said the race element was emphasized in order that property holders could get the support of the majority of white laborers and make it more possible to exploit Black labor. But the race philosophy
So it was always about property ownership. He just said it. It was always about property ownership.
consciousness affects workers in the South and reasons why a real labor movement didn't arise from the ending of slavery.
Got you, bro. Got you, small.
He said the race element was emphasized in order that property holders could get the support of the majority of white laborers and make it more possible to exploit Black labor. But the race philosophy came as a new and terrible thing that made labor unity and labor class consciousness impossible. So long as the Southern white laborers could be induced to prefer poverty to equality with Black people, so long was the labor movement in the South made impossible.
What does equality with Black people mean? When they just said, so long as Southern, well, let's listen to the end. What does equality with Black people mean in this context? I want you guys to chat in your answer.
And labor class consciousness impossible. So long as the Southern white laborers could be induced to prefer poverty to equality with Black people.
The Southern white laborers could be induced to prefer poverty to equality with Black people. What does equality with Black people mean in this context? If you know that whiteness is not about skin color, it's about capitalism, then what is going to create equality with Black people? How do we abolish racism to have equality among the races? Equity, what does that mean? What does that mean? Giving up private property. Giving up private property. When everyone gives up private property or abolishes capitalism, when we abolish capitalism, everyone gives up their private property. That means that we will achieve equity. It's not about equality, it's about equity. It is about everyone having equal access to all of the resources. Now, equity does not mean that everyone gets a similar share of the resources. Equity means from each according to their ability, to each according to their need. It means everyone has access to all of the resources, and then you take as much as you need, and your neighbor takes as much as he needs, and your other neighbor takes as much as she needs, and you all get different amounts, but you have access to all of the resources. That is what they are talking about. Equality with Black people means everyone gives up private property ownership, and then everyone has access to all of the resources. Well, joke's on you, honey, because money doesn't exist in the socialist utopia. Money doesn't exist in the socialist utopia. Grow the fuck up. Hinge into reality. In their minds, equality means no one owns anything that creates disparities in wealth. Everyone has access to the resources. That is what they are talking about.
As a new and terrible thing that made labor unity and labor class consciousness impossible. So long as the Southern white laborers could...
We got Malcolm in! Malcolm with 10 gifted channel memberships. Thanks so much, bro. Massive W's to you, Malcolm. Big support. Really, really appreciate it. Guys, can we knock off our channel membership goal like right now? Can we just get to the 100 right now? Can we just get the goal out of the way? We have about 20 minutes of this presentation left. Can we just bang out another 26 memberships like right now? If 26 people in the chat send in one channel membership, we meet the membership goal for the day and the stream is funded. If 5 people send in 5 channel memberships, basically we meet the goal. We'll be one off, but that's okay. Someone will pick it up. It'll be fine. 5 people send in 5 channel memberships each. We meet the goal. If I've taught you something new today, if I've shown you content no one else on the internet is showing you, if you've taken advantage of the free class that I've given the internet, then We got to make sure to fund it, guys. If I can't fund this stuff, I can't spend as much time streaming. So I would love it if we could just knock the goal out. I'll let the presentation play a little bit longer, but I'm really hoping we can get 26 people to step up and donate a channel membership, or 5 people to step up and donate 5 channel memberships. Yo! I didn't even ask T-Mac to donate 20. I didn't even fucking ask T-Mac to come in and slam his dick on the table and donate 20 channel memberships. Big support, bro. Biggest gift of the day so far. Massive W's to you, T-Mac. Thank you so much for supporting the stream. What a fucking legend. What a fucking legend. Guys, we have 6 more to go. 6 more to go. Someone could donate 10 channel memberships right now and be the hero the chat needs. Malcolm's getting our way there. Gifted 5 more channel memberships. Malcolm, the fucking king. Thank you so much for your support, bro. Getting us to within 1 membership. And not Tina Kotex. Not Tina Kotex. The hero we need for the day. The intrepid filmer of the Portland Dyke March, which we are going to watch this week. Portland streaming legend, not Tina Kotex, gets us past our goal for today. Thank you to everyone who has donated so far. 104 channel memberships. You guys rock. I have the best community on the internet. No doubt about it. Thank you so much for supporting my work. You can keep giving me money if you want to, but we're just going to go and watch the rest of this presentation. But you can totally still gift channel memberships if you want to. Don't think that just because we're past the goal, you can't do it. You can do it, and you should do it, but I'm not going to bug you anymore about it. Thank you guys for allowing me to do what I do. I really appreciate it. Let's get back to the presentation.
Be induced to prefer poverty to equality with Black people. So long was the labor movement in the South made impossible. Meaning that so long as white people refuse to come to the table and to drop the racism, to see their fellow Black workers as equal, that there would be no union. Du Bois proposed that poor whites received a psychological wage and not a material wage in exchange for their racism.
Lisa,
the white worker would feel superior but have nothing material to show for it. So white people can accept racist and backwards-ass views as enthusiastically as they want, but it doesn't change the fact that the majority of poor people without health insurance or on the verge of houselessness are white. And I can't help but think this whole mess is our own damn fault, because we've let our racism stand in the way of building real relationships with our communities, while Black people have been involved with revolutionary struggle from the beginning because they had to free themselves with slavery. But we have been hesitant to join them. And yet there are many among the broad left that treat leftism and progressive revolutionary ideas as a white invention. Well, I have news for you, because many members of the Black Panther Party were self-identified Marxist or Marxist-Leninist. The party was founded in the 60s by Huey Newton and Bobby Seale, and though membership has declined in the 80s, there are still organizations around today that have adopted their same name in politics. The Black Panthers are aimed at feeding, educating, and arming their communities to build a revolutionary movement that fights back for Black liberation and other social issues. The League of Revolutionary Black Workers was formed in Detroit, Michigan in the late 60s. They played a key role in unionization efforts across Detroit's auto industry and other sectors where Black workers were most concentrated. Their goal was to create a single political unit guided by Black liberation and Marxist-Leninist principles. The Combahee River Collective, they were a Black feminist, lesbian, socialist organization active in Boston from the mid-70s to the early 80s. Yet another movement that we like to treat as inherently white is queer liberation. But we can see here that queer Black revolutionaries have been part of this struggle for nearly half a century.
Oh man, queer liberation was always Black.
Was a writer, educator, political activist, and as Wikipedia says, radical internationalist based out of Harlem. He was described by some as the father of Harlem radicalism, the foremost Afro-American intellect of his time, even the Black Socrates. Around 1914, he was the leading organizer of the Socialist Party of America, And a few years later, he founded the Liberty League and The Voice, the first organization and first newspaper with race consciousness. Philip Randolph was a railwayman, trade unionist, and civil rights activist. In 1925, he organized and led the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, the first successful African-American-led labor union, and was part of the Great Migration of people who fled from the South during the Jim Crow era.
A mass genocide.
He believed that overcoming racism required
they was
collective
pure
action,
liberators,
and he was drawn towards socialism and workers' rights. In 1963, Randolph was the head of the March on Washington, where Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his I Have a Dream speech. C.L.R. James, also called Cyril Lionel Robert James, was a Trinidadian historian, journalist, Trotskyist activist, and Marxist writer. As an influential writer and activist, many of tonight's meeting may recognize him from his writing on the Haitian Revolution in his book titled The Black Jacobins. Claudia Jones was a journalist and activist who migrated with her family when she was very young, but later in life would become a political activist, communist, and feminist. But unfortunately, due in part to the Red Scare here in America, she was forced to deport in 1955 back to the UK, where she would live out the rest of her life as a dedicated member of the Communist Party of Great Britain. Esther Cooper, she was an American civil rights activist and social worker, yet another key figure in the early civil rights movement. She was the founding editor of the magazine called Freedom Ways. That was a very influential magazine back in its time for Black arts and the intellectual movement during the 60s and the 80s. We have Walter Rodney, was a Guyanese historian, political activist, and academic who was unfortunately assassinated in Georgetown, Guyana in his late 30s. But he was in
Jonestown. He was in Jonestown. He was assassinated in Guyana. He was in fucking Jonestown. Jonestown, if people don't understand that, Jonestown was incredibly fucking socialist. Jim Jones was a socialist, like an overt self-professed. It's like, we need to watch the Jonestown documentary again. We watched the Jonestown documentary maybe like 3 years ago or something, after that guy set himself on fire outside of like the in Washington DC. It was Aaron Bushnell. We have to fucking watch that again. He was in Jonestown. The fuck?
Historian, political activist, and academic who was unfortunately assassinated in Georgetown, Guyana in his late 30s. But he was a strong critic of capitalism and argued
that's where
that
Jonestown
only under
was.
the banner of socialism and through the leadership of the working class,
they're not going to say he was in Jonestown, though.
Break free from imperialism. And another familiar face here, we have Angela Davis, who is an American Marxist feminist, political activist, philosopher, professor, author, and social theorist, along with many other titles.
Guys, what socialists in America do you think were assassinated in Guyana? People at Jonestown. People at Jonestown. It was Jonestown.
But that is what happens when you are active out there and in the movement for so long.
Yeah,
Davis
the Kool-Aid
is a longtime member of the
Yep,
Communist
literally.
Party USA, and a founding member of the Committees of Correspondence for Democracy and Socialism.
Where was Jonestown? Do you not know where Jonestown was? Jonestown was near Georgetown in Guyana. They had to fly into Georgetown. Some of them lived in Georgetown, and then they would make their way into the jungle to get to Jonestown. That is where Jonestown was. Jonestown was deep in the jungle, but the planes had to land in Georgetown. I know my fucking Jonestown history. I've been watching Jonestown documentaries a long fucking time. I know my Jonestown history, man. This goes back to like when I was a kid. I used to watch. I am so fucked up with like liking extremist shit that I was watching documentaries about Jim Jones like when I was a fucking teenager. Thanks, Little Miss, for the super chat. Karlyn, is it crazy how so much of this connected as you've researched it? Yeah, it is actually crazy. It is actually fucking crazy. It is, man. It is. Yep. That's where Don't Drink the Kool-Aid comes from. True. Yep. Mm-hmm.
She's been active in movements such as Occupy, BDS.
T-Mac in with another 10, bro. What the? I love T-Mac already threw 20 on the table. Now he's giving us an additional 10. Big support, bro. Big swinging dick of the day. W's to you, my friend. Thank you so much for supporting the stream. Thank you so much for gifting out the channel memberships. We really appreciate it.
And even came to Denver a couple years ago to speak at one of the Palestine encampments. Up next, we have Barbara Fields. She's a history professor at Columbia University and was the first Black woman to earn academic tenure at the same university. She's also the co-author of the book that many of us have read here, but we should definitely add it to the stack again.
It's good
soon,
to remind ourselves what we're in for.
The Soul of
when the
Inequality in
socialists
America.
win, we're in for Jonestown.
This book was written alongside her sister, Karlyn Fields, who I believe...
Everyone really should be studying Jonestown because that is the future world to come. It's Jonestown. That's what they want. We need to watch the Jonestown. Maybe we'll do that on Friday. Jonestown documentary Friday.
Eve is also in this photo there on the right. Manning Marable, another professor, this time also coming from Columbia, I should say. In 1979, he was working to build a successor to the Students for a Democratic Society. Later ended up joining with other organizations to form what we know today as the Democratic Socialist of America. In 1982, of course. He was the vice chair for a few years before he did end up leaving the organization. However, he remained an advocate for socialism through his activism and writing. Last here, we have Ruth Wilson Gilmore. She is a prison abolitionist and prison scholar, and also another professor here, this time at City University in New York. She's a co-founder of many socialist organizations. In 1998, she was one of the co-founders of the Critical Resistance, along with Angela Davis. And in 2003, she co-founded Californians United for a Responsible Budget, also called CURB. This organization aims to fight jail and prison construction and currently serves on the board of this organization today. She has also published work on race and class, social justice, gender, and of course, the prison industrial complex. So to come back from a completely unplanned tangent on Black socialist history, believe it or not, all those slides just happen to be in there. I don't know how that happened.
It's a common mistake to think I'm younger than I am. It's a common mistake because I look so devastatingly young because I have such an amazing skincare routine and quite frankly just got lucky with genetics and also don't have children that have made me age before my time. It's common for people to think I'm younger than I am. It's fine. It's fine. It's a nice surprise when they find out. Obviously I'm 29, obviously.
To return back to our question here from many slides ago, why do white workers hold racist ideas when they do not benefit from them materially? Well, it's not uncommon for workers of all kinds to hold clashing ideas like this. And in many cases, it's not just white people contributing to the problem. We're definitely a huge problem, for sure. But to give a very real example that we see all too often today, there are immigrants here in America that are reporting other immigrants to ICE in some sort of pissing contest over who came here most legally.
See, the class traders, the immigrants that are reporting other people to ICE because they came legally and they want the illegal immigrants to get deported. Like I could picture my husband doing something like that. I'm married to an immigrant. I'm not fundamentally opposed to immigrants. I've been married to one for 15 fucking years. But I bet you if I asked my husband and he was being honest, listen, maybe I'm just making this up. Maybe he would never do this. I don't know. I don't want to put words in his mouth or anything. I'm betting you that my husband, because he came here like legally and has become a U.S. citizen and has assimilated, would absolutely call ICE on illegal immigrants that might annoy him. I bet he would. Maybe that's just my dream that I wanted to marry a man that would do such a thing. Maybe he would really not do that because he's much nicer than I am at the end of the day. My husband is much, much nicer than me. But my point is this. If my husband, the legal immigrant, called ICE to deport the illegal immigrants, then my husband, regardless of his skin color, and he is white, he's from Ukraine, would be considered a class traitor. Just like a Mexican who came here legally and assimilated and then called ICE on other Mexicans to deport their asses back to Mexico because they don't want to live among people speaking Spanish, is why they came here in the first place. They would be considered a class traitor regardless of whether they are brown or not. The same thing with immigrants from anywhere. If you came here legally, you would be considered a class traitor if you called ICE on other illegal immigrants. That is what they're saying.
It's not uncommon for workers of all kinds to hold clashing ideas like this.
Probably should have asked him for
and in
saying
many
that on the
cases,
internet.
it's not just
Probably
white
should have.
people
Well,
contributing
whatever.
to the problem. We're definitely a huge problem, for sure. But to give a very real example that we see all too often today, there are immigrants here in America that are reporting other immigrants to ICE in some sort of pissing contest over who came here most legally. And workers of all kinds are shown to hold negative views towards Muslims and people that they designate as Middle Eastern, which is not always correct. Women are still subject to the effects of patriarchy and sexism, even across the lines of race and nationality. Queer people face bipartisan oppression and objectification, even within so-called gay-friendly spaces. Reactionary movements like Gays Against Groomers only serves to demonize transgender and queer identities. I can name at least one lesbian bar here in Denver with the history of discriminating against transgender customers and employees. Now, it's because the ideas enforced by the ruling class conflict and contradict our lived experiences. Society is racist, so people are going to have racist views. The question becomes, can those views change? If they can't, then we've already lost. If people are immutable and unchangeable, and thus society is as well, then surely we should all just stop our work, stop this work, and go back to work for our jobs, I guess. But if we can change society, if people's ideas are flexible and can change, then that's what we must do. And sometimes we have to actually fight and argue in doing so. But we can't confuse this fighting for electoralism. For example, these electoralism has very limited effects. And so we cannot put our full faith in voting our way out of this. For example, Barack Obama becoming president didn't undo hundreds of years of colonial terror upon the indigenous people.
Oh, yeah?
Nor did it heal the wounds left by chattel slavery, because they still exist today. He did bow to imperial powers. He did drone strike children on the other side of the world. That is inexcusable.
Wow, we're hearing a socialist shit on Barack Obama? It's almost as if the socialists never liked Barack Obama in the first place because he was engaging in electoral politics within the Democratic Party, upholding the capitalist system, deporting people, bombing people, doing all the things that they don't like. It's almost like the far left never liked Obama in the first place. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny?
And voting our way out of this. For example, Barack
sounds
Obama
like they don't like
becoming
Obama.
president didn't undo hundreds of years of colonial terror upon the indigenous people, nor did it heal the wounds left by chattel slavery, because they still exist today. He did bow to imperial powers. He did drone strike children on the other side of the world. That is inexcusable, but something that their system required him to do, and he complied. So I will stand by the statement that Democrats are the graveyard of social movements. In fact, they often portray the white moderate that Dr. King spoke about at Birmingham.
Democrats are the graveyard of social movements. The Denver Communists, I've actually seen this sign. They have a sign that says that. I saw it at the Socialism Conference in person. The Democrats are the graveyard of social movements. They don't like the Democrats. They don't think the Democrats support them. They do not believe the Democrats support socialism. They don't believe the Democrats are useful idiots of socialism. They do not like the Democrats. Anyone on the right who says Democrats are doing the bidding of the socialists and the communists, or the Democrats are the communists, or any derivation of that, guys, you've got to use discernment to know anyone who equates the Democratic Party with socialists and communists doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about, like on a very, very basic level. Because if you talk to the socialists and the communists, they fucking hate the Democrats. They think the Democrats are the death of their social movement. They don't want to work with the Democrats. They don't believe the Democrats advance their priorities. Like, they do not like them at all. So if the Democrats were really communists, you would think the communists would be much more friendly to them than they are. So anyone, and I mean anyone, I don't care if it's your favorite influencer or pundit or commentator that is saying that communists are Democrats and Democrats are communists, it's all bullshit. It's all conservative narrative. It is not real. If you do not understand that these are fundamentally different groups that have fundamentally different values and fundamentally different ways they see the world, you do not understand the left. So stop listening to people who are telling you that, because they are lying to you for money.
So I will stand by the statement that Democrats are the graveyard of social movements. In fact, they often portray the white moderate that Dr. King spoke about at Birmingham. It's always the time for compromise and settling down, never the time for liberation or justice. So progress is denied and denied until it's forgotten and abandoned. Democrats worship at the altar of capitalism right alongside their Republican friends, and will in turn support capitalist agendas.
Democrats worship at the capital at the altar of capitalism. No. We don't do this retarded demon rat thing here. That is beneath us. That is low IQ slop for low IQ people. Again, about the Democrats worshiping at the altar of capitalism and upholding capitalism and being just like the fucking Republicans. Again, socialists, please.
Press is denied and denied until it's forgotten and abandoned. Democrats worship at the altar of capitalism right alongside their Republican friends, and will in turn support capitalist agendas. Agendas that ultimately aim to keep workers separated through things like racism, sexism, xenophobia, and other creative forms of bigotry.
Democrats support racism, sexism, xenophobia, and other creative forms of bigotry because they support upholding the capitalist order. The capitalist order creates racism, creates sexism, creates xenophobia, creates other forms of bigotry. All oppression is created by capitalism. The Democrats uphold capitalism. Therefore, the Democrats uphold all these things.
Everything is a competition, but nobody is winning. So I am actually wrapping up here and want to talk about this video that went viral back in 2018 and then again in 2020 after the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. So this video attempted to explain privilege through the lens of people running a race for $100.
Oh,
but there's a catch. Good. The host of the race will allow the contestants to take 2 steps forward if he says something that applies to them. Otherwise, they have to stay put. And so then after he goes through these series of questions, he'll start this race and the winner gets $100. So he lists things off like, both your parents are still married. You grew up with the father in the home. You had a private education or access to a tutor. Your family never worried about
Okay, let me explain to you what you're going to hear. In this goes back to I think it was Small who asked about white privilege earlier. Hey, thanks so much, little miss. Appreciate the super chat. This is why we research what they're saying. So true, so true. So this goes back to the idea of white privilege that we were talking about earlier. White privilege has nothing to do with skin color. It has to do with capitalist privilege, having access to property and resources based on capitalism, okay? So this is a race where this person is basically going to list off a bunch of things, and if one of those things applies to you, you are going to take steps forward in the race. So what they are going to be listing off, every single thing that he's about to say, I promise you, is about upholding the capitalist order. So saying you have two parents that are married, they believe marriage is a propertied institution to uphold capitalism. Marriage is a form of propertied relationship. Marriage also allows for the procreation of the capitalist children within the nuclear family to pass private property down to the capitalist children, raising the children with capitalist values so they go into the capitalist workforce and replenish the workers who have to retire and things like that. So marriage to them is a fundamentally capitalist institution. And I promise you, every attribute that this guy is about to list off is an attribute related to the capitalist system, not an attribute related to actual skin color. And so I want you guys listening to this list with that knowledge that he's talking about capitalism. He is not talking about skin color. And make sure you have that in your head so that you can hear what he's actually saying.
Questions, they'll start this race and the winner gets $100. So he lists things off like, both your parents are still married. You grew up with the father in the home. You had a private education or access to a tutor.
Capitalism.
Your family never worried about bills when you were younger.
Capitalism.
Scholarships paid for your college.
Capitalism.
After listing these things off, the contestants stop to look around at one another. Some are very far ahead and others are still at the starting line. The prompts that allowed contestants to move forward in the race had nothing to do with the decisions that the individual had made. This is to combat a meritocracy narrative.
Meritocracy upholds capitalism. Meritocracy is about someone showing up and working harder than other people and then becoming wealthy or getting money as a result of that hard work. Meritocracy upholds capitalism. That's why they want to get rid of meritocracy. That's why they're trying to teach people, listen, your meritocracy has nothing to do with all of these attributes because it's about capitalist privilege and not about like actually like, you know, like it's about capitalist privilege. That's what it's about. I don't know where I was going with the rest of that sentence.
But were handed things through their family or things that were just permitted or made easier by society.
Generational
You
wealth.
will notice that in some of these photos up here that there are some lighter skinned individuals still at the starting line, but predominantly they are all people of color. The ones that are ahead in the line are all white people and masculine presenting. So this experiment aims to show the disparity between Black and white people in America, also other lines there that we divide ourselves on, and to show the depravity in people who don't want to acknowledge that they received a head start due to the condition.
They're saying that capitalism fundamentally oppresses some identity groups worse than others. That's what intersectionality is. Intersectionality is all of the ways in which you are oppressed by capitalism. And some people have more ways in which they are oppressed by capitalism than other people.
They were born into and for no other reason. So they must believe their success is well-deserved and not purely random. So while I think this video is a net good and does a decent job at describing privilege, I think it doesn't really paint.
You can actually visually look at this and see there are Black people in the crowd that move forward. And there are white people in the crowd that didn't. Because it wasn't about skin color. It was about some people have access to more resources. Some people had families that were married. Some people had, you know, private education. This is all about capitalism. This is not about skin color.
Whole picture, though. It overlooks a small detail that kind of changes like the overall, what is to be done, I suppose. And that's that the capitalist class is already extremely ahead of us in this race.
Literally saying it's explicitly about the capitalist class. Literally using the word.
An astronomical distance. You might even say they're not even in the same race with the rest of us. That they're playing a different game, maybe.
The bourgeois moves forward, the proletariat
just how
remains
much
behind.
$1 trillion is, as Elon Musk becomes the first trillionaire.
Exactly.
It's not a number that you're going to encounter naturally in the world today. Maybe you'll see 1 trillion pieces of sand, but outside of that, you'll never be able to quantify 1 trillion of anything. A trillionaire could lose $1 billion, and by mathematical definition, still have $999 billion, which is 998.9999 more $1 million than like we will ever have or see in our lifetime. What's to hold someone accountable when they have that much money? What stops a person from doing whatever their darkest desires are? They could flatten an entire country to do whatever they wanted with it, for example. You know, we have to focus on this, right? We have to acknowledge how far ahead of us they are, because they are literally using that power, using that advantage to destroy the world in front of us while we watch. And at the same time, we can't ignore the issues that marginalized people face, because we want to win the culture war and the class war. We can do both. And in winning the culture war, we may even have an easier time winning the class war, because people would be more empowered to fight
it's all
back
about
and
class
to
war, you don't
resist.
say.
So we must fight for the liberation of all oppressed people, make their struggle our struggle, because make no mistake, it is all related. We are all connected to one another, whether we like it or not. Our only chance as human beings is to cast off these oppressive ideas that weigh us down, decolonize your mind, kill the white supremacy that lives inside of you. We should oppose class reductionists who say that addressing class issues and class issues alone will benefit everyone. A rising tide raises all ships, they say.
Yeah, so white is a reference to property owner, black is a reference to property. Okay, it's not a reference to skin color. It is a reference to who is in the bourgeois and who is in the worker class. So by all rights and privileges, they believe that black people should be socialists. This is why when black people are not socialists, they are called class traitors. This is why black-owned businesses were burned down in Minneapolis in the BLM riots of 2020. It was not about skin color. Black business owners are class traitors.
But they assume that all the ships in the bay are in proper condition, that they haven't been beaten and mistreated for years and years. A rising tide will erase those ships, drag them into the ocean. Free healthcare seems like a reasonable thing to advocate for. It's something that I would like personally. But if we only focus on that and not people's material realities, we will leave people out of the solution. And more often than not, those people are going to already be in marginalized communities. There's little money to be made in poor rural towns. So why would you build a hospital there? Why build a grocery store or other services? You're not going to make much money helping 10 people with no money. There's no profit incentive for capitalists to build a hospital in poor communities. So on the rare chance it does happen, they are provided only what they need for bare bones operations. And should you need an actual bone operation, you're shit out of luck. So in a dire emergency, it's uncommon for many people in this country to have to drive to the next town over or the next town over, or hire an ambulance. And you can guess how expensive it is to hire an ambulance from the city. Free healthcare may address the cost, but does nothing to improve access, which requires undoing decades of hostile capitalist infrastructure that we can only combat if we acknowledge and assess the problem. So we cannot exclude people's material realities and social conditions in our advocacy and our action. Also, to address a growing problem among the broad left, that is the so-called scumbag leftist or dark woke. Believe it or not, there are people that wear these titles proudly.
What's that?
Some find it acceptable
What
to
is
use
that?
racist slurs, sexist language, homophobic insults, if it's directed towards someone they disagree with.
What?
For example,
I had no idea this was a thing on the left. I am learning something new right now. Dark woke means leftists who use racist language against people that they disagree with. Oh. Tell us more, Denver communists.
To address a growing problem among the broad left, that is the so-called scumbag leftist or dark woke. Believe it or not, there are people that wear these titles proudly. Some find it acceptable to use racist slurs, sexist language, homophobic insults, if it's directed towards someone they disagree with. For example, it's not uncommon, and I've seen it myself, where leftists will make misogynistic comments about white supremacist women. Why not call out their white supremacy? Why do you have to call out their identity as a woman? Why is that the thing that you decide to single out and make into a bad thing? I thought that being a white supremacist was the worst thing that they could be here, and yet we see it anyways. And now the white supremacist is going to walk away and still hate you. You know, she hated you to begin with, right?
True.
But your lady comrades that are standing with you in line, do they think the similar thing about me? What other standards and judgments do you have about appearance and attitude? These are the thoughts that start going through their head when people give in to these types of things. It affects the people around you and how they see you. You signal that you're not a trustworthy person when you do that. And now I know there's going to be reactionaries everywhere, even within oppressed communities. But I'm going to say that there's a psychological conversation to be had here about the effects of racism, xenophobia, other forms of bigotry, the effects that it has on people's minds. Just like it can twist minds into thinking that they're superior, it can also twist minds of the victim into believing that these lies are true. For some people, I do believe it becomes a means of survival, or at the very least, a desire to fit in. Talk to enough people, listen to enough stories, and you'll realize that fitting in could be the difference between life and death in many scenarios. This can break people over time. If they accept they are less than, that they are violent or unwell, that they deserve the daily punishment afflicted upon them.
Yeah.
Once these backwards ideas.
Old sub, we already reached our goal today. Just because, bro? Just because? I love this. Old sub thought that I was wishing him to die 2 days ago on Twitter because he's an older, very distinguished gentleman. He thought I was wishing him death. And now he's dropping 50 channel memberships in the chat. Bro. I was actually so happy today. I was like, we hit the channel membership goal without Old Sub and Cynthia. I was like, we can do it. Old Sub and Cynthia carry the fucking channel so often. I mean, we've got amazing supporters like Hans and Great Otis and T-Rock and Malcolm. We've got some other people too who throw down. We got some other people too with the big support. But I was so fucking happy today. I was like, we made the channel goal without Old Sub. And now he's dropping a 50 just because. He's dropping a 50 just because he's the fucking legend of the channel. And he's like, I'm not going to be outperformed by T-Mac. I'm not going to be outperformed by Malcolm. I'm not going to be outperformed by any of these other people. Like, I am the fucking king of the channel. I am the legend of the channel. We need Old Sub to live a long and happy life. Old Sub is the fucking legend. He's given out so much to the community. Really appreciate it, bro. Obviously, I wasn't wishing you death. Yeah, Old Sub has his own daily goal. Old Sub is his own daily goal. Yep. So appreciated, bro. Massive W's in the chat. Everyone do Plague Doctor emojis in the chat to the guy who just gave everyone 50 channel memberships.
Ideas become a survival mechanism. They become much harder to untangle from the individual. However, we still cannot abide by views that are harmful to marginalized communities, even when they come from the same marginalized community. But that is no excuse to join them in their reactionary bigotry. You are absolutely not fighting fire with fire. You are perpetrating a way of living that should be stomped out completely. Now, I want to end this presentation with the last few paragraphs of tonight's reading. I thought the author just put it very eloquently. So I didn't really see a reason to try to rewrite it myself. And I just want to say, like, I was kind of hesitant to use this article because it was written in 2011, and I kind of wanted something that was more recent. But I feel like with the spike of interest in socialism and communism and just leftism in general, I feel like this article is even more relevant today than it was then.
Yeah, we like
So
boomers
please read it
labeled,
if you
so
haven't been able to. Bookmark it
great.
for later, at least. No serious Marxist organization demands that Black and Latino workers put their struggles on the back burner while some mythical class struggle is waged beforehand. This impossible formulation rests on the ridiculous notion that the working class is white and male and thus incapable of taking up issues of race, class, and gender. In fact, the American working class is female, immigrant, Black, and white. Immigrant issues, gender issues, and anti-racism are working class issues. And to miss this is to be operating with a completely anachronistic idea of the working class. Genuine Marxist organizations understand that the only way to achieving unity is in the working class over time is to fight for unity today and every day. Workers will never unite to fight for state power if they cannot unite to fight for workplace demands today. If white workers are not one to anti-racism today, they will never unite for Black workers for a revolutionary tomorrow. If Black workers are not one to being against anti-immigrant racism today, they will never unite with Latino workers for a revolutionary tomorrow. This is why Lenin said that a revolutionary party must, based on Marxism, must be a tribune of the oppressed, willing to fight against the oppression of any group of people, regardless of the class of those affected. And this is why, despite the anti-Marxist slurs from academics and even some who consider themselves part of the left, the idea that Marxism has been on the outside of the struggle against racism in the US and around the world defies the history and the legacy of Black revolutionaries who understood Marxism as a strategy for emancipation and liberation. The challenge today is to make revolutionary Marxism, once again, a part of the discussion on how to end the social catastrophe that is unfolding in Black communities across the United States.
Yo, we made it. We made it through the 40-minute anti-racism presentation. Guys, let me ask you this. For everyone who made it to the very end, congrats to everyone who made it through the entire 3-hour stream. We covered 2 socialist videos today. We got a lot done. 1 in the chat, if you learned something new about the left that you didn't know before today. 2 in the chat if you knew all that and you didn't learn anything new. 1 in the chat if you learned something new today that you didn't know before the stream. 2 in the chat if you're just super smart and you've been studying socialism with me a long time and you knew all that shit already. Let me know. Guys, we will be doing, I'm pretty sure, an episode of Disenraged tonight. I haven't checked the Discord, so I think we are on for Disenraged tonight, which is a show I'm going to be doing in about 40 minutes with Jennifer. We're going to talk about spirituality stuff and stuff like that. I want to thank everyone who gave 165 new channel memberships today. So appreciate all the support, guys. I want to thank everyone who sent in super chats. You guys rock as well. As a reminder, I'm 100% independently funded to do this, to teach classes on the internet, to teach you guys everything I know about the far left, to show you the primary source evidence, to walk you through things that no one else on the internet is showing you. I will show up every day for you guys when you guys show up for me. So I really appreciate it when we just blow our goals out of the water, because that means this stuff keeps happening. And I so appreciate everyone who contributes. Thank you for allowing me to do what I do. I appreciate it. I'm going to go take a little break. I will be back at 9 p.m. or thereabouts for Disenrage. And I will be back tomorrow to do a whole other show. What are we talking about on Disenrage? I don't remember. I know what it is. I saw it last week. We skipped it last week. I don't remember, though. So it'll be a surprise. Appreciate you guys. I will see you on the other side.
How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
Some idea.
I am not completely like other people.
What do you mean by that?
People dislike me because I am not completely like them. I am trying to do with my life something which few people try to do, and this influences my thinking and consequently my action.
What is it you're trying to do with your life?
Play the piano for people.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.